Our story begins with a young guy named Sunan. He is going to leave his hometown to serve the emperor, but they are trying to stop him. This dude's name is Tang Xiao, and he is our main character's best friend. Serving the emperor is a wonderful dream, but if he doesn't tell him the real reason, then he won't let him go. He's certainly not a bad person, but sometimes he can be stubborn, so our hero just screams at him to let him go. He doesn't have time for that. When the time comes, Sunan himself will explain everything to him, but now he needs to leave. We are told that the situation is not so simple. Our boy is actually an unsuccessful time traveler. Tang Xiao is much stronger than our main character, and therefore, until he tells him the whole situation, he will not leave here. Suning arrived at this time about a month ago, but Tang Xiao drags him to the department so that he admits his mistake and is not kicked out of the yard. He does not need to be driven to expulsion, like Sasuke from Konoha. But our main character doesn't want to admit anything and grabs the door. Why can't he just calmly take it and leave? The system that has always been with our boy has just been activated and given a new task, and Sunin is thinking about how he can get rid of this huge guy. But because of this stubborn Tang Xiao, he can't even leave this place because he believes that serving in the courtyard is the best job. The system reminds him that there are only 48 minutes left until the end of the mission, and if he doesn't make it in time, he will simply start from this reality. Our hero complains that the system did not give him any abilities at the start, and demands that he complete a task called King of the Hill. Sunan had already begun to think about asking for a loan, but he was refused because he did not have enough owner rights. He began to think that now he is not able to defeat Tang Xiao, and if he does not complete the task, he may die. It turns out that his best friend is his main enemy at the moment. Time was becoming less and less, and our main character began to panic because he might just die, and suddenly the system would malfunction. Suddenly some guy appears and asks why Sunan is still here. Wasn't he kicked out of the yard? This was the chief of the servants of the imperial court, and since our hero no longer serves them, why doesn't he go to hell from here? His best friend tries to calm him down, because Suning just fell under the hot hand. Tang Xiao will be able to explain everything to the department and they won't kick him out. The boss doesn't understand what this guy is up to. Does he really think that the imperial court is a wine shop where you can simply explain and they'll forgive you? Tang Xiao says that if necessary, he will accept the punishment, and our hero, meanwhile, thinks that if these two start fighting, he can quickly get out of here. As a result, a conflict arises between these two, and Tang Xiao says that if Chenlang does not calm down, he will hit him. The boss thinks that this guy will be like a punching bag for him, but Tang Xiao says that he will bury this guy alive if he doesn't shut his mouth. Sunan could no longer tolerate these dates just standing around and talking. If he has fists, why not put them to work, after which he asks for forgiveness from his friend. He begins to throw threats towards Chung Lan and calls him a weakling. If our hero wants to leave, then he will leave and can always return, and this idiot will not do anything to him. Tang Xiao's face immediately changed, and his eyes clearly showed that our protagonist should quickly close his mouth.
And the commander generally froze in horror at the words of this guy and did not know what to answer.
Suddenly, he just makes a crazy smile and says that although duels are prohibited in the courtyard, he no longer considers our hero a courtier. He simply attacks Sunan and says that he will finish him off without even breaking the law. Our best friend throws us aside and tells us to run away. The main character clearly overdid it, but he only has 41 minutes left. While these two were using various techniques, the boy had already managed to quickly escape from the yard. 39 minutes remained. He just helped the previous owner of his body to help write a love letter for the princess. Was it really such a terrible crime? Just think, he just tried to steal the wife of a very important person in the state. Why do you need to expel him right away? Meanwhile, there are 21 minutes left. The system tells him that in 200 meters, a barrier in the form of a tree will be waiting for him. But our hero cannot understand why she is talking to Biden's voices. The system denies him access and says that in a few meters there will be a magical creature of the 4th level. Sunin is furious and cannot understand what kind of roots this fool is building. Despite all the obstacles, our hero finally got to the place on time. The system reports that the goal has been achieved and the route is completed, but Sunin does not understand what kind of place he was brought to. She congratulates her master because the newcomer's mission is completed. The system officially receives a name. This mountain is called the King's Mountain. And at the end of the first chapter, we are given the opportunity to admire the beautiful landscapes. A circle of energy appears under our hero's feet, and the system announces the launch of the King of the Hill protocol. The King of the Hill card was loaded at 82%, and the trading function became available for Sunan. While the scanning continued, more and more new functions opened up for our hero, such as taming magical animals. Our hero has already seen all the fruits that are shown on the panel during the collection, but for some reason it seems to him that this fruit is more like a demonic one. When in contact with nature, the boy is able to unlock and tame the beast, but the system shows him a dangerous, hellish dog that had 7 heads. The condition for unlocking special items is completing the main story quest. The first task for Sunin will be to glorify the name of the king of the mountain so that it can be heard on all continents, but his head already hurts from the amount of information that he was given in 1 minute. Task number 2 will be for him to collect various seeds and young magical animals, but he is already crying from a headache. The system decided to give him a small gift in the form of equipment for a newbie, finally at least some help. As a result, he was given a pet dog, land for cultivating plants, and a small house for beginners, as well as an ability called Radiance. For now, he wants to take a closer look at the skill panel and inventory panel. It looks pretty decent. He looks at his newfangled iPhone, and there his new home is shown to him, but the time has come to log out of the system and try something new. Our hero is trying to use new objects, and the ground around him began to be interrupted by markings, but he still does not understand how to start using the ability. He is shown a red zone beyond which he simply cannot go. He thought that this system was quite interesting since it had so many new features. Our hero had only to say one phrase when suddenly a huge house made of boards began to be built in front of him. Admiring his creation, he thought that he had built it very quickly, but it was still a house for beginners. He also has plots of land for growing plants, but the seeds that were given to him were already ripe. What does the phrase ripe mean? Sunin decides to test everything in practice and wants to first test the ability of the earth. But it just seems to him that if he starts farming, he won't be able to turn away from this path. In general, he doesn't care. The main thing is to try something new, after which he says the phrase "Sao." Surprisingly, the distance between the rice seeds was just perfect, and they entered the ground at the same time. He simply couldn't believe that he had done it all himself, and considered himself an incredibly cool farmer. But suddenly he was overcome by despair. Because he spends such great abilities in order to plant seeds, did he really travel through time to become a farmer? But oh well. At least he can grow a lot of food and survive. The last ability left is called a pet named Mao Mao. I wonder what kind of breed this is. It's not clear why, but he's yelling at the ground like crazy for the dog to get out of there as quickly as possible. A small puppy appeared, but our hero thinks that he is somewhat weak. Did the system really think that the guy would be very lonely in the mountains? Well, okay. Sunin takes him in his arms and says that although it is not clear what breed he is, the most important thing is that he is not a Siberian Husky. The rest is not important. While he was getting to know his new friend, he wanted to say that they would live for a very long time on this mountain. But suddenly something caught his eye. The seeds that he planted had already managed to germinate, but he could not understand how. And they were also simply of excellent quality, shimmering with gold. These two friends ran to collect their treasures, and our hero realized that mature means that the seeds are fast growing. He thanked the system for such a gift, since they certainly won't help with hunger. Sunin suggests to his faithful dog that since these breeds are already mature, he can try to cook them. Throwing the rice into the pan, our hero began to prepare the dishes. The aroma that the dog smelled made her begin to choke in her own drool. They both sat like savages, and our hero could not understand why there was such a delicious smell, because it was just ordinary rice. This smell was impossible to describe scientifically, as if from some open-world game. Steam was already coming from the pan, and to our hero this smell reminded us of a beautiful country with a large population as well as the greatest variety of landscapes. Geographical and climatic elements contribute to the formation and maintenance of species. A person can only sleep on one bed. Even if he has thousands of houses, he will still need food. And even while working in the sky or having lunch, they still continue to pray to the heavens and the gods on them. And that is why people should value the food they have on their table. And also respect the efforts of others. You just heard a prayer, and our main character prepared a delicious rice porridge. Her taste was simply incredible, and he just started screaming to the heavens about her taste. After he ate, he ran across the sunny field like crazy, and no longer regretted his past because the porridge gave him a new meaning in life. The dog also wanted to eat, but the boy did not notice this because he was distracted by the unreal taste of the food. The system gives our owner advice that he needs to pay 1 coin for using the stove and bowls. They have a self-cleaning function. But our boy clearly doesn't like the fact that he will have to pay for such banal things. At this rate, he will spend all his money. But the system says that he only got the house for free. All other things are rented, and our hero decides to ask his dog for the exchange rate. How many magic stones are equal to 1 coin? 1 low-quality stone will be equal to 1 coin, but only those that he earned through honest labor are counted. But the system can give him a loan that he will close tomorrow. The hero thanks her for her help. Entering the house, he saw that there was no bed, but he was informed that this was not a necessary resource for survival. He could buy it separately in the store. Seeing the price of 50 coins, he complains that it is too expensive and he will not pay. But the system tells him to watch his dirty language. He can buy it on credit and pay 1 coin a day. But the boy is too principled and simply lies down on the floor, saying that he will not follow her lead. Even the dog was shocked by this behavior. But he never managed to fall asleep, and at night he thought about the fact that everything in this system is too expensive, but it needs money to support itself. The main goal for the hero now is to stay alive. Now he can't do anything to return to Earth because he led a terrible life there, and then moved through time here, so this time he will have to change something. He asks for forgiveness from his family, whom he abandoned there, and says that he will definitely find a way to return, and the next day is already coming.
Sunan worked hard, but can't the system help him with his work? But she says that such an ability can only be won in special lotteries. This news makes the guy happy.
One lottery is held at the beginning of each month. This is of course good, but our hero understands that the system can charge you for anything. You need to be careful. He needs to earn a lot of money as soon as possible to become rich Elon Musk, and he is thinking about starting to sell the rice he grows. The system allows him to sell items, so he wants to go down the mountain to the city and earn a little extra money. Sunan arrived at the bazaar on the eastern part of the city and was surprised at how noisy it could be. He was surrounded by many different shops and he thought it was an amazing place. He didn't think much about the design of his store, so he simply wrote rice on the sign and sat down to wait for the first customers. The hero decided to do a little marketing and said that this is the most delicious rice from the high royal mountain that is available, and the one who buys it first will receive a reward. But everyone reacted rather strangely to the guy who came to the market with just one bag of rice. He gets a very awkward face and says that he is responsible for the quality of his product and people can come over to try it. But suddenly some bearded guy tells him that he is doing business wrong and it's tedious to go in the other direction. Then the boy asks him for advice on how to do this. A sufficient quantity of goods, a good reputation and high quality. If a guy came here with just a bag of rice, then the buyer cannot choose something else for himself and does not smoke his product. The guy seemed to say something about the Royal Mountain. The name is not bad, but it's better for him to look at his fishing business, which he has been running for 10 years. And also Sunan should pay attention to what the customers say. When he said that this is upland rice, they said that it is no better than ordinary rice. Let our hero also look at the presentation of this guy's business. His trick is that he never misses the fish's head. This guy has been in business for many years, but remains just as firm and persistent. But suddenly something unexpected happened. Some lady came up to our hero and wanted to smoke the Highland rice that he praised so much. How much will it cost? The guy was a little shocked, and our guy was a real lucky guy, because no one usually buys rice on the street. But Sunan named too high a price for his goods. It was about 100 times more, and this angered the lady, but he can explain everything. As a result, this woman simply left cursing our hero, and the guy watched what was happening and said that the guy was a real loser. The guy thought that he was wasting his time, because he became dumber when he communicated with Sunan. To begin with, he wants to figure everything out from scratch and is thinking of making porridge from his rice. Its aroma will definitely attract many customers. This is just a great plan, and he decides that tomorrow he will borrow a pan from the system and fly the business up the mountain. While our hero is thinking about how to pay off his past debts, he meets an old friend who does not understand what the hell he is doing in this market. His friend was shocked by his friend's new place of work and said that he could not understand why he left here. But our hero said that this is a great place and that he likes to do it. Why did Tang Xiao bring so many things here? One of them said that Tang Xiao was demoted precisely because of him, and now they have to look for a bunch of things using a cart. But his friend asked him to shut up. But our hero still heard all this and was very sad that because of him, his friend had problems. He tells him that it's okay, but is selling rice really what Sunan dreamed of? One of them wanted to be rude to our hero because he exchanged serving in the palace for trading in the market. But Tang Xiao decided to first look at the quality of the rice and said that it was simply excellent. He also said that the county process is not like them, and if she refuses him, then he shouldn't just leave. Tang Xiao took out one piece of rice and said that this is just an excellent product, and that he should not stop his friend if he has already decided on his actions. He wants to buy all of his rice. But Sunan warns that unlike others, his product costs a little more. But nothing. The palace should always have food of excellent quality, and if they like it, it will always be purchased from our main character. Sunan somehow has enough strength to name a high price, as much as 5,000. There was only awkward silence in response, and the guy from the neighboring shop decided to add that this rice was from the Royal Mountain. Tang Xiao had sweat running down his cheek and asked our hero to name this price again. From this look, Sunan began to get nervous and looked around at the guy who was trying fish next door. But why does he look at him like that? Because he simply repeated all the same words that our hero says to his customers. He wants to find an excuse for this and measure the price, but the system warns that if our hero does this, the reputation of the mountain will be lost, and it is better not to do this. The bald guy was already furious because Sunan named the price too high. Weren't they his best friends when he came to work in the palace? But suddenly Tang Xiao calmed down and told his friend to give him money for all the rice he now has. The bald guy didn't understand this decision because it would cost them 10 whole months' salary. But Tang Xiao says to just do as they say. He has some savings from when he was the director, and he will give it all back to them. Suning cannot simply accept this money, but his friend says that everything is in order because this is the last moment when Tang Xiao can help his best friend. After which he puts his hand on his shoulder and tells our hero to protect himself and never forget old friends. From these words, Sunin cannot say anything. All he can do is just watch them leave forever. He asks the system why he has a lump in his throat. Maybe he did something wrong, but she tells him that he is a king. Let him not allow his emotions to get the better of him. Looking at the bag of money, he swears that he will definitely repay his debt twice and wonders if he will really become a king, a royal man. Suddenly, the system makes the sound of money being written off, and one coin disappears from the bag. Our hero says that the system is a thief because he just made money. The owner of the fish shop watched all this and could not understand the emotions of the main character. Shouldn't he be happy that he earned so much money? The boy decided to take a walk around the market where there were many stalls with different goods. He wanted to somehow celebrate receiving his first money. He is a little worried that he opens his inventory in the middle of the street, but the system says that everything is in order, because no one except him is able to see this. In this case, the boy wants to choose a comfortable bed for himself because he is no longer going to sleep on the hard floor. Suddenly, he felt a strange smell of herbs and decided to explore other shops. In one of them sat some girl who was wrapped in rags sewn together. Approaching her, she asked the main character to look at her grass, because they have the magical properties of medicine. She picked them up in the mountains while walking this morning, and they're still fresh. Our hero could not understand what such a sweet and shy girl had forgotten at this market, and why she was selling various herbs. Suddenly, the system turned on and reported that new seeds had been discovered that heal wounds. Now he can use them. Our boy opens his inventory and realizes that he still has a lot of plants to collect, and that's exactly what he needs to do. A cute girl in a hood says that this herb gives strength. After using it, his physical abilities will increase 20 times, and it costs only 20 coins. And this is a purple herb. With its help, you can prepare tablets that give strength of spirit. And this orange plant is a flower of hemostasis. It helps stop bleeding. Dark whirling herb, after using it, your speed will be entered 20 times. Sunan found it simply incredible that the girl was able to remember all these names. She is already quite an experienced trader, so what herbs is our main character going to buy? Suddenly, the realization comes to him that he doesn't have to buy flowers because he has already received the seeds, but how can he tell the girl about this? Should he tell her that he didn't have much money and was just looking around, but he thought that they would immediately beat him up and throw him out? Suddenly, the system made a new notification because our hero collected 10 herbs and increased the level of his body by 1 parameter. Our hero's hand began to increase in size and he felt that he was becoming stronger. Even despite his advantages, the boy still did not want to deceive this little girl. Seeing Sunan's dubious face, she pushed him away and said that these herbs are no longer for sale. But he began to awkwardly apologize and say that she misunderstood him. He just wanted to know if these herbs could cost a little less. Suddenly, 3 guys came who look after order at the market and asked if this girl had a license to sell herbs. As a first warning, they simply take away all her goods, but if the situation repeats, the girl will end up in prison. But she just grabs her basket of herbs and says that these freaks have no right to take her things. Of course, our hero, like a true gentleman, Jonathan Joestar, tells these guys that he has already bought these herbs. The people around looked at the guy strangely because he had just challenged the administration of magical medicine, but Sunin continued to tell them to leave her alone. One of them turns to our hero and says that he shouldn't have a problem with this. Their deal is no longer considered valid. But Sunin is also not so simple. He bought these herbs with his own money, and therefore they are no longer a problem for the administration. And the guy in the funny hat says that this girl is not a pharmacist, and if our hero wants, he can buy the goods from their administration. While they were arguing, they almost took the basket away from the girl and she started crying because she had been collecting these plants in the mountains all morning. He tried to convince our guy that these medicines are not good because the girl does not even have a doctor's education. But Sunin had long known about everything with the help of his ability. She was already in tears begging to let her go. She would definitely get a license as soon as she earned a lot of money. The guy in the hat continued the argument and said that she could easily sell these herbs to them and then start herself, but she would give half of her wages so that they could check her goods. In such cases, since the girl does not have a license, she cannot sell, so let her consider it her own bad luck. Suddenly, our hero stands between them and says that this girl can sell herbs while she is taking the test. Yes, of course she can, but first she will have to pay 2 coins. Great, in this case, Sunan will cover her fees himself, and the girl will immediately begin to undergo testing. The girl was touched by the action of our hero, and the guys did not understand why the hell this freak was interfering in their affairs. They were brought to the administration building and told that the test would begin here. Even though she was a little girl, she was completely confident that she would easily pass this test. But this guy in the hat warns that if she fails the test, they will simply take away all the herbs and kick her out of administration. He bows to some guy whom he calls a master and says that now they are under his strict guidance. They show us some old man who is drinking a strange drink and just lying down on a chair. He asks the girl if she really decided to take the test. The guy in the hat also laughed and said that that little madam was going to become a pharmacist. The old man first wants to know who she is and why she wants to become a doctor. In response, she says that her name is Xiaoa, and she has been an orphan since birth. He just notices that the girl's clothes are very old and asks her to put a few stones on the table. Before we begin, our hero wants to cheer the girl up a little and says that she will definitely cope with everything. But the face of that guy in the hat was clearly cunning, because he didn't just greet them to the old man. The likelihood that she would pass his test was 0. Other experts have at least 2 tests, spelling and identification, but this old man only has 1. Making an incredibly crazy face, he says that there is grass in this box. The girl's task is to put her hands in there and understand what kind of plant it is. Of course, she will not be able to look inside. He will put another box when the girl finds out what is inside, and this will continue until she guesses 10 pieces in a row. Our hero was simply shocked by such tests. The old man is just testing the girl's inner feeling, but if she can't do this, then she won't get her money back. Sunan considered this real blackmail. The guy in the hat still continued to smile devilishly, because for many years no one had been able to pass the test of this crazy old man, and these two certainly could not become an exception. Our hero is worried about the girl because these guys just deceived them, but she still wants to try because she thinks she can handle it. Sunan is very embarrassed by the fact that the girl is incredibly calm, and this makes him even more scared. Xiaoxiao smiled strongly and said that she would not let him down. The old man showed her the box and invited this sweet lady to try her luck. Meanwhile, the grandfather calmly sipped his drink and thought that he had been working here for several years, and during all this time no one had ever been able to pass this test. If it weren't for the comfortable chair and the good salary, he would have quit this terrible job long ago. The girl had already put her hand into the box, and there was a strange white flower lying there. She used all her strength to recognize the type of this flower. Suddenly, the girl calls the name of the plant. It was a tree bell. From this, the old man begins to spit his drink, and Xiaoxiao had complete horror on his face. Our hero was simply in shock because he could not understand such a reaction. He wondered if she gave the right answer. Suddenly, the grandfather completely loses his calm and thinks that this girl is going to kill someone. His eyes began to glow, and he could not believe that she had guessed right because no one had ever been able to answer his riddles. Sunan immediately comes to the girl's defense because this old master really scared her. Why the hell is he behaving so strangely? In a trembling voice, the girl says that she just felt this plant. Did she really answer incorrectly? The old man simply confirmed her correct answer, but in his thoughts, he already thought that this girl might really have talent. He makes the most innocent smile and asks for forgiveness from our heroes. He was only a little surprised by her ability and would like to continue the test. The main character jokes with him because the old man just broke a chair from his surprise, but the master still wants the girl to continue the test. Putting her hand in the box, she was surprised that there was an ordinary mint there, but her answer was again correct. With each new answer, the old master's face became more and more insane, as if he saw his new student in this girl. The guy in the hat watched all this and couldn't understand what was happening. How did this girl guess everything? Maybe she really has talent. Meanwhile, the grandfather was already beside himself with joy, because the girl's answers were already close to 10. He gives Hanma Yujiro a crazy smile and says that Xiaoxiao recognizes plants based on her talent. She is just a natural pharmacist. In the end, the guy with the strange hat realizes that the game is over for him, and the couple should already run away. In general, the old man completely lost his mind and became covered with a strange aura. All this happened because after many years, he finally found a worthy opponent. This dude is already completely desperate because he just offended a very talented person, and the old master also respects her. He simply falls to his knees and regrets that he wanted to take her herbs away from the girl because he thought that she was a pathetic liar. The guy showed too much disrespect for her, and therefore thinks that he should say goodbye to his job. Our hero in some strange way begins to fly around him, and this guy accuses him of being to blame for everything. In his opinion, if Sunan had not stood up for the girl, they would have calmly let her go and none of this would have happened. He grabbed our hero in his leg and Sunan said thank you for saving him, otherwise he would have been blown away by the wind. But the dude clearly did not do it with good intentions. Apparently, this guy has completely lost his mind, because now he is asking the question, why did he save our main character? While all this madness was happening, the girl had almost finished her test and the master praised her, because he had been looking for just such a person for 3 whole years. He just apologizes because of his energy he created a strong wind. In return, he invites this girl to become his student and learn the secrets of plant magic together. But apparently the girl will refuse him, because her goal was completely different. She wanted to become a pharmacist. This was precisely one of the directions of the huge company, but the old master invites her to become a real alchemist. It turns out that the master forgot to introduce himself. His name is Alcluse, and he is a hermit alchemist who travels the world in search of new things. Hearing this name, the guy was shocked, because he is one of the 5 best alchemists in the country and can make high-grade medicines, and due to the fact that he is a hermit, it is very difficult to find him. Having learned that the old man is also a good kung fu master, he simply falls to his knees in front of him and asks for forgiveness, while promising to keep all the secrets he just heard. Suddenly the system is activated, and one famous quote from this old man is called, "You need to gather the strongest in order to conquer the royal mountain." But our hero begins to get angry because he cannot just defeat the kung fu master, who can blow him away from here at any moment. But the old master calms them down and says that he came here to find himself a student, and now he can safely leave these places. The old man knew very well that this guy brought the little girl here on purpose, because no one had ever managed to pass his difficult test. Since he upset the master's student, he must come up with an appropriate punishment for himself. First, he wants to ask his youngest student about this, but the girl says that she has not yet become his student and asks for help from the main character. Sunan remembers that it was thanks to him that they got here, and that he recently saved the life of our hero, so he need not be punished. This guy has already begun to thank all the gods for the fact that he was forgiven, but it seems that everything is not so simple. He asked about the punishment from his first student, and not from the first level trash. Sunan was confused by this, but unfortunately he cannot tell the truth. The grandfather tries to persuade her that she will no longer have to collect herbs, and that after she finishes her studies she will be able to work. Xiao already has a headache from these words, but the old master still invites her to become an alchemist because it is much more prestigious. She only came here to get a license and has no intention of becoming his student. In such cases, the old man says that the girl will never become a pharmacist, and our hero feels bad things. Our hero stands up again and says that the girl is not at all interested in becoming his student, and therefore there is no need to put pressure on her. But this only angers the old master. Why the hell did this guy even leave him here? Does he really care so much about who he takes as an apprentice? He deliberately tries to underestimate the girl's abilities and says that he still doesn't know much. She's just an ordinary alchemist, so it would be better to just let her go and forget her. But the old man still doesn't calm down and says that our hero has absolutely no concept of alchemy. Such talent as this girl is born once every few generations. But Sunan says that the girl simply recognized a couple of herbs by touch, and there is nothing unusual about this. He even says that he could do it himself. In such cases, the grandfather suggests that our hero also pass his test. If he passes, he will let the girl go, but Xiao immediately dissuades him from such an idea. But if our hero loses, he takes the girl for himself, and also this worthless servant dies. It seems the guy who is sitting on the floor is not very happy about this idea. Just as he was a little glad that he had survived the old man's wrath, suddenly a new threat loomed over him. Well, now he was definitely a corpse. In response to all this terrible noise, a crowd of people gathered to discuss the situation. They believed that our hero did not have the slightest chance against the old man. The guy was shocked by what was happening because our hero gave him certain death, and Xiao was worried whether the boy could do it. But Sunan is very confident in his actions and says that he will do it easily, but the old man asks him to be serious, because despite the fact that he is a friend of his student, he will not give in. But our hero turns out to be that cunning, because every time he touches a flower, the system immediately tells him the name of the seeds that he receives, so this test will not be difficult. While Sunan was guessing each plant, the old man wondered why the guy didn't have any magical energy, because even the most talented must use it. But suddenly the old master begins to think that our hero decided to deceive him, and he loudly shouted to him to get out of here. The guy on the floor didn't understand why he paused the game so abruptly, and our hero, it turns out, just wanted to get enough seeds to increase his level. And the old man explains that he does not feel the waves of ki energy in this guy at all, and he is only the first level. Can he explain how he finds the names so quickly? The guy's eyes immediately widened because he had just started playing and didn't understand how he fell into a trap. He realized that he began to identify plants even faster than Xiao and gave himself away. The system immediately turned on the automatic defense mode because our hero does not know martial arts. He tells the system that blocking is not a solution because the old man's powerful aura is now looking at him, and it seems to him that he is already dead. As soon as the old man approached Sunin, his strength began to disappear, quite interestingly. But our hero tried to explain that he was only the first level and was not worth his attention. He already began to worry that he would reveal his powers, but the system told him not to worry because it blocked the keywords. Even if he wanted to, he would not be able to tell anything about her. The old man's gaze was as if he could see right through him, and this made him feel uneasy. What did the master want from him? Now the boy can't even say a word, and while the grandfather laughed evilly, our hero had already said goodbye to his life. But instead, the old master puts his hand on his shoulder and offers to become his student too. How could he let such a talent slip under his nose? Having received a sharp negative answer, the grandfather becomes dead inside and says that young people today are extremely ungrateful to the kindness of old people. Since they both pass the tests, the old man lets them go and gives them pharmacist badges as a farewell. The old man could only watch the trail, and our hero congratulated his friend because now she can sell herbs and not be afraid that they will be confiscated. One of the assistants suggests talking to these guys because they are still young and do not understand what an honor they have had to study with the great master. But instead, the old man asks him to stay away from them. These guys have goals, and if he forcibly makes them his students, then his reputation as a master will be destroyed. All he can do is bow and say that the master is right, but he also adds that he will no longer return to work in the organization. But this guy still has a lot of questions, and the old guy just left the house and went into the sunset. Now it's not his problem anymore. The action moves to our heroes when Sunan was simply in shock when he found out that the girl was an orphan. All this time she spent the night near the Earth Temple. But now she wants to stay with him. She wants this because our main character was the only person who stood up for her. If not for him, her herbs would have been taken away, and despite the fact that she is now a pharmacist, she would want to travel with Sunan. Our boy, in shock, does not understand what to do, and he decides to ask the system for advice. In response, she says that in this world, people can receive affection after help, and also that this girl needs someone strong next to her. She grabs him by a piece of clothing and says that she completely trusts her brother. The master, of course, was also kind to her, but she thought he was a little crazy. Our hero wants to find out in detail the abilities of this girl, but the system says that at 15 years old, the girl has excellent perception of plants and approaching danger. At this point, the boy thinks that such talents can be useful to him, and it would be nice to take the girl into his squad. The system gives him advice to accept Xiaoa into his squad before someone else does, and in return the girl promises to collect herbs for our hero, even though he himself is now a pharmacist. Sunan's reaction was as strange as possible because he had never accepted such a young participant into his squad. But after the girl offered him to wash his dirty socks and perform all household chores, she burst into tears because she thought that our hero did not need her. And Sunin turns out to be a real gentleman and pats the girl on the head, after which he says that if she wants so badly, she can go with him to the Royal Mountain. On the way, he told her about the puppy that was waiting for her on the mountain, and she was very happy. But it seemed that all this time someone was watching them. It turns out that this is the old man who stood behind the tree and now smiles like the last devil. He managed to overhear the entire conversation of our guys about the secret mountain and natural talent, and now he wanted even more to get these students into his collection. Along the way, Xiao says that from a young age she has been collecting herbs in the city, but she has never heard of the Royal Mountain. Of course she could not have heard of it, because our hero only recently gave it a name. But she didn't only mean the name, because she remembers for sure that there was never a mountain here, but now there is one. And also the plants don't grow around it. Sunan simply laughs it off and says that they won't be able to find any vegetation here, but in his thoughts he thought that the girl was simply incredibly observant. He just smiles ridiculously and thinks that if the system managed to create an entire mountain out of the blue, then it violates the basic laws of physics. Suddenly the guy began to panic because his modest house was not equipped for a child to live there. It was tedious to quickly buy all the necessary things. But the AliExpress delivery system decided to play a cruel joke on him and asked him to pay an additional 93 coins for the speed. From these words, the guy begins to cry because the money is simply leaving his corsair. Finally, they arrived at their destination, and the girl liked this cute place and how the dog hunted butterflies. Seeing the farm and the hut, she began to admire even more, but the peak of her joy was a dog named Mao Mao. But for some strange reason, he began to growl at her and released his claws. Sunan immediately covered the girl with himself and tried to understand why the dog suddenly went into combat mode. He tries to calm him down by saying that this is a guest and not an enemy. Suddenly, that old man appears again and says that things are getting too interesting. They decided to start a fight in the palace, but now he is not one of them. He begins to notice all the strange things, a mountain that appears out of nowhere and a puppy that is able to sense him in an invisible form. While the dog was barking at him, Sunin tried to understand how this old master got here. Apparently, he was too careless and did not notice the surveillance. He tried to calm the girl down and said that everything would be fine, but in his thoughts, he understood that he was only at the first level and would not be able to defeat the old kung fu master. But suddenly, some kind of black aura similar to gas appears around the dog. Why no one even notices it at first? A huge silhouette of a black dog appears behind Mao Mao, which clearly looked threatening, but still no one can see it properly. The old man says that he doesn't care about their current abilities, but our hero refused him twice, thereby showing disrespect, and soon he will pay for it. Sunin can only watch and hope that his faithful dog will deal with him, but the old man says that this guy has a lot of secrets, and since he refused to be his student. Suddenly, the old master simply kneels down and makes an innocent face of a little girl, after which he asks them to take him to the team. From such news, all the guys simply collapse to the ground. Sunin is very angry about this act. Why couldn't he just immediately say that he wanted to be with them? And the dog just stares because now everyone knows about her abilities. While the girl plays with the dog, our hero reflects on the fact that the old master Zhao is also pursuing his own interests, namely their abilities. He thinks that for now he will not take his eyes off the old man and will watch closely, and Mao Mao turns out to be an excellent ace in his sleeve that the system gave him. The old man, without a drop of shame, began to praise the fact that the dog noticed his presence as soon as he showed a drop of hostility. Our hero is annoyed by such excessive calm. The girl was very glad that she now lives in a cozy house with her brother, but Sunin is clearly not happy that now he has 2 guests. He will go broke at this rate. What attracted her most was the mirror that stood in the room, but the boy turned out to have given as much as 30 coins for it, and another 5 for fast delivery. This system is a real thief. The old master immediately finds a comfortable place on the sofa, and is surprised that it is very soft. He had only one question. How was Sunin able to bring all this here? At first, Sunin began to act stupid because he didn't know what to tell him. This old man is very experienced, and it will be much more difficult to deceive him. Seeing that our boy is having difficulty answering, old man Zhao understands that this guy has his own secrets, and this is absolutely normal. Fortunately, the old man is not very curious. But Del finds himself much more interesting entertainment in the form of a gaming chair that every streamer has on Twitch, but Sunin asked him to be careful because it is not as strong as he thinks. He tried to the last to warn them that this thing was not a toy and that they could get hurt, but no one listened to him for a long time. The old master felt like a real Formula 1 racer and asked Xiao to speed him up as quickly as possible. While they were playing, it so happened that they went outside and the girl with the power of Saitama decided to throw her grandfather straight into the yard. Master Zhao tried to soften the fall with the help of his chi abilities, but the blow was very strong and even his slippers flew off. At that moment, the grandfather felt all the injustice of this world and how careless he was. Our hero thought that these two were acting like little children and asked the system how, after the breakdown, the chair was able to break through the grandfather's defense. While everyone calmed down, he asks Xiao to prepare dinner for them. The system explains to him that after his grandfather used his QI energy, it began to adapt to it, and now no one can harm this chair. But now this is not so important, and Sunin invites everyone to the table. The girl was very happy that she could finally eat in the company of people, and not all alone. But the old master is not satisfied with the fact that he was served rice porridge at the table, because as a fighter he could eat 1 piece of rice for a whole year, but his porridge smells quite tasty, so he will try it. He asks Sunin not to blame himself for this, because he did not know such details about him. After which he called our hero a good boy. But suddenly Sunin decides to cool this old man's ego a little, and says that this plate of food is for the dog, and he will have to buy it for himself at his own expense, and unfortunately, this is the rule of the Royal Mountain. The old man was clearly shocked by such audacity, and hitting the table said that the boy was going beyond all limits of what was permissible. This was a real disrespect for old age. Master Zhao began to yell because he was placed below the dog in status, and he was also incredibly hungry. Seeing that the old man began to become aggressive again, the dog decided to turn on its super mode and slightly cool the old man's ardor. The silhouette of that beast appeared behind him again, and he said that some old man had no right to talk like that to the owner of the Royal Mountain. The old man was already horrified by what he saw and told Sunin that he wanted to take these two as students. But even so, it was too much. He would not tolerate such an attitude towards himself. Before it was too late, Master Zhao asked to explain to him everything that was happening here. But our boy said that Mao Mao could feel negative energy. Now he was angry because the master tried to take his food. These words angered him even more, because the feelings of some puppy had just been put higher than his honor. It would be better for these guys not to see what kind of master could be angry. Our hero tries to calm the dog down and says that this mischievous old man is no longer trying to steal his food. The boy paid for this puppy on his own, and he must make sure that he was fed and watered. Meanwhile, the girl could not stop eating porridge. Xiaoa is here because she wants to join his team, and so he has to take care of her. But the master thinks that the boy wants to become the king of the mountain. Hasn't he thought about what will happen in the future? He doesn't care about the future that these people will have, but he wants to be with them on this mountain. The girl immediately agrees with the condition that she will always have such delicious food. Suddenly, a new notification came from the system that Xiao had joined the squad and gave a full description of her skills and characteristics. The grandfather was clearly in shock because the girl believes that a plate of rice is worth more than the reputation of the master, but our hero says that this is unusual rice, and he cannot give it away just like that. Master Zhao is still not going to take his word for it, and therefore gives away a lot of magic stones to deal with this plate of food himself. So let's see what kind of porridge this is. Can it really be so tasty? He hasn't tried it yet, but he has already sworn to the top that they will see all the wrath of the old martial master. But the grandfather is not allowed to just enjoy his food by hungry little children. They look straight into his mouth. But the grandfather immediately moved the plate away from them and said not to even look at him. He paid for this food and would not share with them. Finally, the old man tried this incredible dish but still wondered, could this porridge really be that good? Grandfather's eyes immediately widened to incredible sizes, and he could not understand why this porridge was so tasty. The actions are transferred to memories when the master was only 23 years old. Then he went to the hometown of his old friend. This year he married the love of his life, and he really wanted to visit him and congratulate him. The journey did not take much time, but suddenly on the way he met a beautiful lady who was crossing the river with her horse. And after their glances crossed, he never returned home. He spent a lot of time with this woman, and for the first time in a long time he felt that he had met someone special. Finally, the master met someone who became dear to him, and then ordinary life and death began. But after one single conversation, he said goodbye to his rainbow masts forever. He expected that he would remain with this girl for the rest of his life, but unfortunately he still cannot forget her. After which he offers to drink drinks for the love that he lost forever, and could never find again. But our main character doesn't understand how a little girl and a dog can take away his grief over lost love. But the old man tells him not to poke his nose into other people's questions. Everything is fine, of course, but only the old man sits on the table, drinks rice water, and remembers his first love. In his thoughts, Sunin thinks that the old man should drink to his speedy death. Suddenly, this crazy man remembers the taste of rice porridge and begins to demand its recipe from the main character. If necessary, he will pay, but he needs 2 more bowls of porridge. No, it's better to carry 5 more bowls because he still has plenty of stones to pay for. But the boy apologizes, but he cannot sell more than 1 bowl per person because he still needs to sell rice in the city. Master Zhao could not believe that our hero is such a fool because he sells rice which contains a lot of magical energy, but our hero needs to earn a living somehow. Sunan explains that they won't be able to eat only porridge for the rest of their lives, and meanwhile the girl made a wreath for the dog. They were both shy, but our boy already thought that these guys would need a teacher after they grew up. But the old man says that a person who grows up on this mountain cannot have a future. It's better to let him give the girl to him so that he can develop her skills. But instead he says that this mountain will one day become a connected place, and if the old man has a desire, he can join his team and train the girl right here. Master Zhao simply laughed and asked the guy where he got such confidence from, because he is not even a martial arts master, but is going to turn this mountain into a holy place. But Sunan says that if an old man does not see the point in a dream, then he is no different from a salted fish in the sea. But if he really wants something, he can achieve it. In fact, it's not just that our hero loves to grab so much. There is huge potential in this mountain, and this rice is the lowest grade commodity of all. But my grandfather still didn't have any more confidence in this guy, because he just sits and says everything he thinks. However, the rice alone is comparable to the highest quality rice, and there is also this strange furniture which hurts my back terribly. Also, an incredibly gifted girl and a dog who does not feel guarded when meeting an old master. All this is too curious. Also, this strange royal mountain that appeared literally out of thin air, it's simply impossible to explain. The grandfather stands in a pathetic pose on the mountain and looks into the distance, says that he agrees to join his team and teach Xiao the art of pharmaceuticals, but if it weren't for the development of the mountain, he would simply take the girl for himself, because such a talent should not be wasted. But he's just not going to obey our hero, and if he suddenly wants to leave the mountain, he'll do it at that very second, and if Sunan wants to stop him, he'll finish him off. Our hero promises him that the old man will never be disappointed in him, and the system reports that a strong holy warrior has joined his team. The old master stays here because of the little girl, but Sunan thought that he would stay because there is very tasty food on this mountain. The old man considers this a great disrespect for him, but our hero asks him to calm down because he was just joking. He calls the girl to tell the good news. The old man is now on their team. Night had already fallen and someone was carefully examining our boy's house. He was wondering if everyone in this house was sleeping now. But even the old man was already asleep without his hind legs, so you can start making your evil plan. For some strange reason, our hero begins to smile strangely and tells the Black Wind Lunar Bureau to come to him. But it turns out that the Black Bureau is a lottery that happens in the system once a week. On this day, you can double all your earned money. Suddenly, the old man wakes up and cannot understand why the hell this guy is there on his knees and whispering something under his breath. From the outside, it looked like the boy was praying, but the old master thought that the boy had simply gone crazy. Many tools flew around him that could be used to work in the garden, but Sunan could not name all their names. Suddenly, all the cards become the same color, and the boy does not have time to remember where each card was, but he will try his luck in action. He thinks that he can already earn currency by selling rice, so he wants to take something that is not so easy to get and decides to start with secret ingredients. Stretching out his hand to the cards, he asks for help from all the gods so that they can help him make the right choice. He points to the card and after turning it, turns out to be gold in color, but just what could that mean? Unfortunately, this card contains the most ordinary wood splitter, and he gets upset. But then he realizes that the objects that the system made cannot be bad, and so now it's time to continue, and our hero thinks that now he can pull out a truly valuable item. Our hero believes that if you repeat these words 3 times, it can really bring much more luck. The system happily informs him that he has received a new fruit land. The boy decides to immediately try it out. The system says that this land has been pumped up to the 10th level, and therefore his farming skill has also been increased. Sunan is happy about this because getting an additional skill along with the card is quite profitable. But suddenly he begins to get nervous that even though he was given the skills, they forgot to put the seedlings. He immediately opens his inventory and store. A female voice tells him to carefully familiarize himself with each type of tree because each requires individual care and fertilizer. But Sunan is more confused by the fact that the system sells each seedling for 10 gold coins and also 30 gold coins for a bottle with a holy spring. This is not a store, but a real deception. He already feels like his body is gradually dying because he does not have the opportunity to constantly shop in this store, and the system also seems to force him to engage in farming. Morning has already come and the old master came to apologize for coming so late, but Sunan tells him that it is not necessary to wake up so early. They should not work in the field like him. It turns out that our hero made new clothes for the girl, which she really liked, and she came to say thank you. He simply smiles and says that he will go get the uniform for the old man as soon as it is ready. In his thoughts, he thought that a ponytail would suit the girl, but the 2 braids that she made are also pretty good. From so many compliments, the girl's face suddenly turned red, and she asked him to stop praising her so much. The old man asked in surprise why our hero plants trees here, because rice would sell for much more. But Sunan says that these trees are no worse in quality than his rice. These fruit trees are special, and even the water for the bottom was made to order. But our hero still continues to think about how to organize an irrigation system. 1 bottle of this liquid costs 5 gold coins, but it looks like the most ordinary mineral water. Suddenly, Sunan had an incredible feeling, because all his fatigue and illnesses had suddenly disappeared. He felt that energy had overwhelmed him, just like after 10 cans of Red Bull. He wants his friends to try this magical drink as soon as possible and experience the same emotions, but they did not understand why the boy insists so much that they drink this strange water. Having taken just 1 sip, the old man suddenly felt several years younger, but still could not understand where this water could have such strong restorative properties. Old Master Zhao already wanted to start putting forward various theories about this water, but Suning doesn't have time for that now, because he still needs to water the trees. Of course, the grandfather was very angry, because the boy is a real fool if he wastes sacred water in such a stupid way. It can be used in a more useful way. But Sunin tries to explain to him that this is special water that is intended for watering fruit trees like his, so it cannot be a waste of resources. Grandfather does him a favor and tells him not to announce the sale of rice or anything else today, because the master is going to buy up all his goods. Holding 2 bottles of magic water in his hands, he still couldn't believe that this fool was using it to water the trees.
But Sunan says that this simply needs to be done in order for their royal mountain to continue its development, in which case Grandfather will leave him alone and will not interfere in his affairs. Let him do whatever he wants with his goods.
In this case, our hero wants to go to the city to sell rice, and while he is away, the rest of the guys promise to see to it that the mountain remains in order. He asks them not to accompany him for a long time, and return back to the house, let them be sure to start training while he is away. Master Zhou really likes to watch this loser from the side, but he is still quite interested to see what will eventually grow from this seedling. First, unusual rice, then fruit trees, and now water that gives strength to life. Something is definitely wrong here. But grandfather says that he and Xiao should start training. Today, they will learn the alchemical method. The action moves to the market, and the fish seller, already familiar to us, saw the eerily familiar face of the guy who sold rice here yesterday. Apparently, Sunan decided to implement his idea from yesterday and prepare porridge to attract customers, but the guy from the fish shop didn't understand what the hell he was doing. The fish seller was very surprised that the guy wrote the text incorrectly because no one could read it properly, and he also set prices that were simply astronomical. He says that probably the main character just went crazy because the prices were simply huge. The fact that they bought an expensive product from him once does not mean that you need to start getting impudent. Let him pacify his desire to earn money a little. Sunan just smiles awkwardly and says that his rice is of excellent quality and is worth the money, plus the time he spends on cooking also costs money, so everything is fair. The wonderful aroma attracted a huge crowd who wanted to taste the porridge, but they saw this guy here for the first time. He immediately says that he only recently came to trade at this market. The fish seller was simply shocked that our protagonist's small shop was able to attract so many people. At this rate, he would not have any buyers left due to competition. The crowd still looked at the porridge with admiration and understood that this was a very unusual dish, but suddenly one of them asked its price. Our boy was a little shy because so many people had gathered, and now he is ashamed to say how much his porridge costs. He was never able to pronounce the price and therefore simply points his finger at the price sign. It seems that our hero is going to make Andrew Tate's fortune from his porridge. Suddenly, the crowd changed their mood and said that no one would ever buy his porridge for such a huge price. Isn't Sunan afraid that 4 great companies that sell rice will come for him? But the guy still says that his rice is of simply excellent quality and that he does not force anyone to buy his product. If they suddenly want, they can spend their money. Suddenly, a fishmonger bursts into the crowd and starts pushing everyone. Because of our hero, his business is in big trouble, and he wants to try this porridge to find out why he is charging such a huge price. The boy hands him a bowl of hot food and says that it will be at his expense as an apology for causing losses to his business. But the owner of the fish shop simply takes the plate and says that if this porridge is not the most delicious in his life, then Sunan can say goodbye to his teeth forever, and also prevents him from trading in the market. A real egoist. For him, not allowing a person to earn money is tantamount to murder, but the whole crowd looked very carefully at the bowl of porridge, and everyone understood that for them, this was a new incredible smell. Although the fish shop owner's mouth was already drooling, he thought that the wonderful aroma of the rice was driving away the smell of fish from his shop. But suddenly the people around began to behave strangely. This porridge seemed to have put a genjutsu on them from the Naruto anime, and now they were begging to try at least a spoonful of this food. The fishmonger clearly had no intention of sharing such a treasure, and simply moved the plate away from the other people's mouths. He should be the first to try this wonderful porridge, after which he takes the first sip. It was just an incredible taste. The rice was mixed with sweet spring water, and it all turned into something sweeter than first love. It's simply impossible to believe that such a simple dish can be so delicious. From such admiration, the owner of the fish shop begins to read a poem about his first love. The whole crowd was in shock because it felt as if the guy was under the influence of many drinks drunk at night. Does porridge really have that effect on everyone? One of the crowd thought that this guy works together with our hero and is specially doing advertising for him. Why shouldn't the owner of the shop give them a little try? But suddenly his face changes to an angrier one, and he says that he does not work in tandem with the main character, and why the hell should he let other people try his porridge? Instead, he simply drinks all the food and then licks the plate so that no one gets a single piece of this porridge. He shows the crowd a completely empty plate and tells them not to even dare to think that he is working together with Sunan. He has his own scores to settle with him. He says that this porridge is a sacred dish and such trash as they are simply not worthy of trying it. From these words, the whole crowd was shocked. Our main character felt that the fish seller wanted to help him, but it seems he overdid it a little, and now everything will get even worse. In any case, the guy has new clients, and considering how much money he charges for one plate, he has become a little closer to Mr. Beast's fortune. Suddenly, the actions are transferred to some restaurant, and from there someone watched what was happening in the market. This lady's name is Chill Dubai, and she smelled an incredible aroma from the street, even ordered her servant to rest a little. She makes a very crazy face and says that she urgently needs to do one small thing, so she will go away. She asks her servants to tell them about the situation that is happening in the market. They tell her about a strange merchant who sells rice from the royal mountain, and he sells it at a simply cosmic price. This lady was from one of the families that traded rice and held a very high position, and could not believe that our main character dared to show such disrespect for her name. The girl who sat next to her all the time understood that this would not end well, and her servants only supported her and wanted her to teach a lesson to that freak who was selling rice in front of her eyes. He wanted this guy to never be able to trade again, and ordered his servants to find a suitable reason for this. But the lady in the pink dress thought that this was an act not worthy of a ruler. Meanwhile, the fishmonger was still trying to prove that he doesn't work with our main character, but the question still remains open. How can ordinary people buy his incredible porridge? Suddenly, someone comes to the market and says that some merchant dared to break the rules of the 4 great families and began to sell rice at a very high price. This is simply unacceptable. But our hero cannot understand what the hell is happening here. The gentleman quickly walked past the entire crowd and came to Sunan with the question, did this freak really dare to do such an act? Our main character asks the owner of the fish shop why this child speaks like a retard, but he tells him that this is the son of the richest family in which they sell rice, and he would better watch his language. But it seems that he heard everything and started yelling that his name is Bai Xiaolong and he is from the rich Bai family. But Suning still saw in front of him only a little spoiled child. His family owns 4 of the largest rice companies in the country, and it is they who set the prices for the goods. Our hero cannot set the price he wants because this is simply unacceptable. He is a fraudster. Sunan realizes that in front of him is just an ordinary child, and so he decides to overwhelm him with clever terms, after which his brain begins to lag, just like Fortnite on a weak computer, and the boy begins to get angry. Our hero concludes that if a small kid does not have the necessary knowledge, then he cannot be a representative of power. Sunan sells rice at a high price simply because it is of excellent quality, and a small child cannot tell him how to run a business. Apparently, the young gentleman was angry that he was called a child again, and he vowed to take revenge on our main character. Soon he will be a corpse. The guy turns out to be such a bastard, and tells the crowd that our Sunan adds a special substance to the food that gives it such a taste. But it has a bad effect on psychological health. It is not surprising that all the people immediately began to rebel against him. He smiles like a real devil and says in his thoughts that he cannot go against the people in this region because they are all under his control. And what is our main character going to do now? Sunan realized what game this little freak was playing and accepts the challenge. If he lets everyone try, then his name will be cleared and he can continue to trade in peace. So he asks the young gentleman to eat porridge, and if he finds something strange there, then Sunan will leave the market. But the young master says that he is not going to try his poison and will simply hand over his goods to the state for inspection. But one of the servants tries to stop him. He said that he only needs one person because he is the only one who can check the quality of the goods in the best way, but the servants think that the boy is going too far. In his thoughts, he is still angry about being called a small child. He just hates it. But for the crowd of people, he wants to come out as a good person who wants to protect their lives from bad goods. Only a 10th level warrior can do this. Hearing this, our boy tensed up because he himself only has the 1st level, so what should he do now? While some guy in the background is buying fried chicken, he says that there is only one person, the bazaar supervisor, who is a reliable appraiser of the goods. Only he can be relied on. In the background, someone asked about the cost of the chicken, but the seller said that he could take it for free as a gift. This seller thinks correctly. While he was gnawing on a piece of chicken, he did not forget to remind him that the management payment for this month had not yet arrived, but the seller promises that they will receive the money on time. He was informed that the young master was looking for him, but he asked that this little child do him a small favor and never again create problems that he must solve. He simply takes the bag of money and asks who will be his target for today. Sunan really got scared and wanted to run away from here, but before that, he wants to ask the system what would be the best thing to do. It cannot provide such services. But it still reminds him that the main character just got scared of a child. The young master had already celebrated his victory and said that our hero was very scared. But it would be better for him to be scared than to be killed by a person 10 levels higher than him. It seems that we have already seen this man. He says that he heard that someone is selling bad goods here, and he arrived to understand the situation. Does our hero really want to go to the other world so badly? Seeing before his eyes the same guy from the master's house, he was simply shocked. What the hell was he doing here? The next chapter begins with the little kid yelling that the inspector arrived just in time. He should quickly arrange an inspection for our hero. But suddenly he just starts singing a song about how his rice simply cannot be bad because he sells the most delicious porridge that is available in this market. He asks our hero to give him a plate of rice, and then he will receive his support. This is, of course, very beneficial for our hero. But that compliment was simply disgusting. But it is better than fighting with the 10th level. The little kid notices that he is giving Sunan a stone that his man gave him as a gift, and the kid just can't understand what the hell is going on here. The guy in the hat also wants to ask about Master Zhao, but the main character tells him that now the old man lives with him on the Royal Mountain and helps him. He tells him that this is the largest mountain that is located in the south of the county, and that little guy carefully eavesdrops on the conversation with his big ears. Sunan notices that the kid is behaving strangely, and decides to ask what the hell he is doing there. He just starts yelling at them, because that guy in a strange hat bought rice with his money. He better give him a bowl of porridge or the 4 great companies will never forgive his impudence. Since he received quite a lot of stones, this cup of rice will be free, but the kid warns him that if he mixed poison in it, it will only make him worse. The crowd starts cheering for the little guy to try it as soon as possible, but instead he starts eating the food like a pig, and everyone was shocked by this behavior. Suddenly, strange memories began to awaken in his head, because he tried a bowl of porridge. He remembered how his older sister held him in her arms, and it was the most carefree time in his life. Suddenly, he starts flying into the air and calls this rice simply incredible. Apparently, he went a little crazy because he started saying that he felt as light as a little bird and was about to go on a long flight. Seeing that the crowd began to look at him strangely, the boy suddenly wakes up from a sweet dream and begins to behave more normally. He simply hands the required amount to our hero and says that he wants to buy all the rice he has. After he threw a bag of money at Sunan, he grabbed the rice and ran out of the market at the speed of Sonic. Everyone was shocked by such actions, but the guy in the hat explains that this is the usual speed for their family. But his father will be very angry if he finds out that he used the dragon's speed ability to run away with the goods. Sunin said that he had just an excellent result to become an excellent thief, and the guy in the hat couldn't understand why he did it just for a cup of rice. While he has a free minute, he also wants to try some porridge, and after just one sip, he finds himself in 7th heaven. He fell to the ground with pleasure, but our hero thought that he was pretending because he could believe that there was no other tasty food in this magical world. After he stood up, he said that the quality of the rice was simply excellent, and the crowd was already starting to think about buying a bowl as soon as possible. The action moves to the palace of that little guy, and there he analyzed the rice. For the first time he saw such excellent quality and sufficient amount of key energy. He just bought it before our hero had time to raise the price on it. He considered himself very smart, but it seems that he has a lot of complexes. He saw his sister in the gazebo and decided that she should be the first to try his porridge. It was made from special rice that was collected in the Royal Mountains. The little kid decided that she should try as soon as possible, but it seems he didn't distribute his strength and jumped too far. It's very strange because until that moment the kid didn't have such strength. Somehow he still manages to get to the other side and at the same time hold the plate in his hands, but that a strange power appeared in him. The little sister notices that last time the boy was able to jump only 3 meters, but now he jumped 7 and did not spend much effort. Now the boy has calmly jumped over a pond 8 meters wide. How can he explain his new abilities? The little boy turns out to be too complacent and simply starts shouting to the whole street about the fact that at such a young age, he has already achieved enormous power. But his little sister asks him not to shout so much. She brings him down to earth a little and says that he got his power with the help of elixirs, and now let him tell how he pumped up another level. After which he begins to tell her a story about a strange guy who sells rice at the market. At first, he simply drank a bowl of rice porridge, after which he grabbed the bag and ran away using his ability. No one managed to catch up with the small guy. The sister simply cannot believe that her brother became stronger with the help of porridge, and he also stole this rice. But the boy says that he paid this idiot and will ask his father to organize a holiday in honor of this tomorrow. Little sister says that she doesn't care about these stories anymore, and she also wants to try some of this magic porridge. But it turned out to be so tasty that the girl could not restrain her emotions. It also contained such a huge amount of ki. She hoped that no one noticed her terrible appearance, but the boy, of course, began to laugh and asked mockingly if she was all right. But suddenly the girl's eyes began to glow with a different light, and the boy felt horror and a strange coldness on his body. It seemed that she was just going to finish him off. The lady grabbed the guy by the ear and wanted to give justice. He couldn't use their family's ability to just run away. He already felt guilty and was going to apologize. But his sister didn't want to let him go just like that. Suddenly the action shifts to our hero's friend, and some dude tells him that Sunan deceived him at their last meeting. This guy was clearly laughing at Tang Xiao, because not only did his best friend just betray him, but this idiot also wrote love letters for the princess. These idiots continued to argue that our main character was just a real bastard, but suddenly some lady came and said that the princess wanted to see Tang Xiao urgently. He thought that she wanted to see him because of the strange situation with the rice, but the lady told him that he could find out everything personally from the princess. Entering her chambers, she informs the princess that she has brought the desired guy to her. This is the princess of the region, and her name is Yang Ju Yun. It turns out that she had already heard that Tang Xiao bought rice at the market at too high a price. But why did he do it without permission? He asks her for forgiveness and says that he did not take anything from the common money. He just wanted to help his old friend earn a little money. She doesn't quite understand who he's talking about, but he tells her that he was a farmer but just left that place a couple of days ago. She immediately remembers our hero, and Tang Xiao realizes that she has not forgotten him because he wrote her those annoying love letters. The girl wants to know the origin of this rice. The guy can't tell her this because he doesn't know it himself, but he assures her that his friend would never sell him a bad product. In this case, Tang Xiao may be free, but tomorrow morning he will go with her to the market to find our main character. It seems he doesn't really like this idea. He bows his head in front of her and asks her to spare our guy. He is of course a fool who was expelled, but he never had bad intentions against the princess. She says that she had no intention of touching his friend, and suddenly she promotes him to his position. Now he will decide various issues that concern the princess. Leaving the house, he thought about the reason for his promotion. Maybe she did it on purpose and then do something bad for his best friend. But in the meantime, the girl was thinking that our main character was simply an amazing person whom she kicked out in vain. He has amazing literary talent as well as magical rice. It is not surprising that he left this place so easily. While reading his poems, she notices strange symbols that she can still read for some strange reason. It seems that this text was written by two different people. She still can't believe that Sunan is such an amazing young man and notices that she just fell in love with him. The action moves to the Royal Mountain, where our boy was arguing with everyone because they handed over pills that improve the condition of the body to the Isle. While the old man was trying to force the girl to study alchemy, our hero decided to regain his strength a little and also tried enhancement pills. After taking them, the guy's body began to improve, and the system reported that Sunan received +1 point on the condition scale. The next day, our hero had to leave again, and the girl promised that she would leave pills for him that would strengthen the body. But the old man corrected him because these pills actually improve magical abilities. When Sunin came to the bazaar, he thought that the old man had made a special effort for him because a little girl could not simply make such a large number of tablets. There were more people at the bazaar today than usual. Suddenly, his face changed dramatically because he saw that in his usual place there was a huge crowd listening to someone. He couldn't understand what the hell was going on here and why some freaks had taken over his trading post. What kind of nonsense was going on here? In her thoughts, the princess thought that she had been standing here for 4 hours and still couldn't find our damned main character. But if she just left now, everyone would think that their princess was just scared and ran away. Two ladies met each other and neither could understand what the other was doing here. It seemed that they were not on the best terms, and the crowd looked at them and thought that they looked like goddesses who had descended from heaven. The princess said that she was waiting here for our main character because a couple of days ago he left the palace without her permission and she needed to find him to punish him. The girl replies that she heard that Sunan was expelled from the palace, and in her thoughts she understood that this lady just wants to take all the rice for herself since he used to work for her. He can easily do this. It's as if she's rubbing salt in the princess's wound and remembers the love letters that our hero dedicated to her. Of course, this makes her angry, and she doesn't want to remember the past. Tension grew between the girls, and they simultaneously asked their servants when Sunin would come to sell them the damn rice. But both guys were confused and could not give an answer to the formidable girls. Tang Xiao decided to pretend that he didn't know anything, and the little kid couldn't answer his big sister, so they both simply turned away from the conflict. While our main character was trying to get through the crowd, some dude decided to approach the young lady and began to discuss with her younger brother, who had recently achieved considerable heights. Suddenly, another guy came up to them and asked how Mrs. Bai was doing and how she was doing. The whole crowd was simply shocked that he was so handsome. There were clearly no handsome guys in their ordinary village. Now a conflict began to appear between two guys, and the reason was a beautiful girl between them. Each began to threaten that he would deal with the other in the blink of an eye. The princess was clearly angry that so many men approached this lady, and she always remained on the sidelines. Maybe she was not beautiful, or her high status repelled the guys. In any case, Tang Xiao tried to calm her ardor. Our main character finally walked through the huge crowd with his bag of rice, while everyone else continued to discuss the status and beauty of those people standing at the stand where rice is sold. Sunan doesn't seem to notice at all that the princess of the state and many people with high status are standing in front of him. He simply pushes them and heads to his shop to start trading. Suddenly, one of the guys got very angry because the guy didn't even pay attention to them. Does he even understand who he's standing in front of now? But he simply replies that this is his legal place of trade, and he sits here every day. Maybe this dude has some kind of problem with our hero. Suddenly, Sunan notices his best friend and the princess in front of him and wants to know why they came here. Did they really wait that long to buy some rice? This guy comes up with a simply brilliant plan. He realized that that girl came here to buy rice, then he will simply buy up all the goods and give it to the lady of his heart, after which she will belong to him. He makes a very big smile and proudly declares that he wants to buy all the rice that Sunan has. From now on, the entire stand with the goods will belong to him. Our hero saw this guy. Because of his terrible character, he didn't want to sell him rice just like that. Maybe it would be better to raise the price. In the end, he says that he will sell him everything for 40 gold coins. After these words, the guy was simply shocked and called our hero a fraudster, because even the best rice cannot cost such huge money. He just starts yelling at Sunan and says that he won't buy it, but our hero is also not a fool, and says that if he doesn't have money, then it's better for him to get out of here, and he can show off in front of the girls only in his dreams. Because of this situation, the girl really called this guy disgusting, and he couldn't believe that Sunan had dropped his reputation through the floor in 1 second. Suddenly, the same guy in the devil's hat appears from the crowd and says that our boy should not be so hasty with his decisions. Now he cannot come closer to him because even a long crowd of people is blocking him. Suddenly, that guy turns on a mode called Hanma Yujiro, and he starts smiling like him. No one dares to insult him, and especially to prevent him from meeting beautiful ladies. He declares that he will not stop until he finishes off our hero, and Sunan was simply shocked that he activated his magical abilities. Were his feelings really hurt so much that he took such a step? The little kid understands that Chang-kun has reached the highest level of magic and is now going to release all his power directly into our main character. The girl from the Bai family began to worry about him. Tang Xiao understood that his best friend was now at the first level, and no matter what skills he possessed, he would not survive against such a strong opponent. The guy in the black hat wanted to intervene, but the crowd did not let him pass. If suddenly Sunan dies, he will never be able to taste such delicious porridge again. Chan-kun creates a technique called a fist that destroys mountains and directed the attack towards our hero. He thought that death was near and began to say goodbye to all his friends. But even so, he finds the strength to create the sewing skill and somehow summons a magical shield. Chang-kun says that a shield against a level 10 strike will not help him, but the system hastened to argue, because with the help of the sewing skill, when the battle is in one space, he is able to block even such a strong blow. When Sunin uses his seeding skill to attack or defend, he must use his opponent as an endpoint. Imagining as if he is planting seeds, Chang-kun does not understand what is happening, because our hero does not look so strong but easily threw his hand aside. Also, when our hero uses this skill, the enemy's defense is not taken into account because this ability is not intended for battle and cannot cause much damage. But Chang-kun still cannot understand what kind of power is hidden in this guy.
And most importantly, when the battle takes place in one space, no one can interrupt the owner's attack, and therefore you can leave the opponent so that he receives huge damage from free flight. In short, the seeding system is an invincible ability.
But suddenly our hero asks to change his winning stance a little, because when he raises both hands it looks like Michael Jordan is throwing the ball into the basket. Then she changes his fighting stance to raising only one hand. This guy's free flight turned out to be so long that upon landing, he hit the floor with his head, and our hero's best friend could not understand where Sunan got such enormous strength. Suddenly everyone ran up to our guy and started praising him for such an incredible fight. He never talked about the fact that he knows Kung Fu. Is he really okay now? Tang Xiao reminds him that he is still hiding too many secrets from him, and then Suning realizes that he is not in the best situation, the damn mountain system and the damned sewing ability. Chang Kun is still alive and understands that it would be better not to get involved in the fight if he knew that the boy had such power. After which he curses our hero for his incredible skills and for humiliating him in front of all the beautiful ladies. He thought that he was too calm with our heroes, but now everything will be different. It's simply impossible to believe that such a useless skill could harm him. Everyone was shocked when they saw that this guy was still able to stand on his feet. Our hero told him to take a little rest and calm down, because he didn't have to take revenge on him. Suddenly, a guy in a black hat begins to stand up for Sunan and says that he apologizes for his comrade, saying that he only recently arrived in the city and did not have time to understand the local rules. It would be nice to forgive him for his rudeness the first time. But Chang Kun tells him not to be so arrogant, because despite the fact that they are both level 10, He became the only one who was able to reach the highest form, and it would be better for him not to get in his way because of this guy. One of those guys says that he is not the first person our main character managed to anger. A couple of days ago, he argued with Master Zhao, and they had an exciting battle, after which he was demoted. Doesn't Chang-kun notice that today he is no longer helping him? The main character does not understand why the guy in the black hat was demoted because of Master Zhao, but now another question is important. Where did this idiot know about his demotion? Well, he calls him an ordinary director, and our hero an arrogant guy who sells rice at an inflated price. Do they both really think that Chang-kun is such a big fool who doesn't understand anything? Suddenly, he concentrates all his energy into his fist again and creates a mountain destroyer move, but this time increases its power to the 10th level. Everyone was scared from such great power, and the guy in the black hat told him to stop and not force him to fight him. But instead, our main character again sends this loser into free flight, and this time also gets into a cool pose after winning. Suning thinks that his ability is similar to an ancient martial art called Taiji Kianu, and then asks his opponent if this is all he can do. But Chang-kun is not going to just give up. He has not yet shown his maximum and has not become a real warrior, so he will continue the battle. He's already starting to regret pissing him off a second time, and the little kid tells him not to be a jerk and just run away. If he hides far enough, he can continue selling his rice elsewhere. In the next frame, he was again selling his rice as if nothing had happened, but this time he doubled the price. The crowd was furious, but he said that yesterday there was a discount, and today the porridge is sold at the regular price. The guy calls our hero a rice businessman and mocks Chang-kun for giving up his place, but he tells him to shut up because all he can do is just talk about him behind his back. Why doesn't he fight him himself? Chang-kun says that it's never too late for a true gentleman to take revenge, but the guy in the background just laughs at him and says in his mind that he can't call himself that. The guy in the black hat asks our hero not to bother and buys all his rice. He does this for his master Zhao so as not to apologize to him. But suddenly Ban Xiaoliang says that he buys his rice at a higher price than this guy. Suning clearly doesn't like this because he just bought 10 kilograms from him yesterday. Has he really already eaten it all? The girl in a white dress says that she will buy all the goods for 60 gold coins, and everyone was shocked by such a statement. Suddenly, the princess comes up and asks their family not to be so greedy. She understands that they are all businessmen, but other people also want to receive high-quality goods. Mrs. Bai says that this is a business, and therefore the rice should be given to the person who can pay the most. And the princess declares that she is not the only rich woman here, and if she really wants to play a game with her who is richer, then she gladly accepts the challenge. The girls began to argue fiercely for the right to own this product, and the price began to rise, but Tang Xiao tried to calm his princess before she lost half of her state for a bag of rice. When the price began to reach 200 gold coins, our hero decided to intervene in their dispute and said that he would sell them all the rice porridge. There were many plates of food on the table, and Sunin invited them to try its incredible taste. The crowd was simply shocked by such a wonderful aroma, but unfortunately ordinary people could not afford such delicious food, and therefore simply stood and watched the rich eat. Sunin was already imagining how he would sell each of these plates for 40 gold coins, and thought that soon his fortune would be greater than that of Mr. Beast. Since all the goods have already been sold out, it's time to start tasting. Suddenly, Chang-kun began to feel much stronger than before, because his body was filled with chi energy from the magic rice. But he still could not believe that this was the effect of the most ordinary porridge. Suddenly, a brilliant plan began to emerge in his eyes, because it was thanks to the porridge that the main character gave him that he would be able to defeat him. But the Bai family guy hits him on the head with a fan and tells him to shut his mouth. Now is not the time for his pathetic revenge. While our hero was counting his money, the guy in the black hat could not understand why these two were starting a battle because they were allies. Chang-kun couldn't understand why he was hit. It wouldn't matter to him even if his father took his sister as his third wife. He would still show this bastard where the crayfish hibernate. But they told him to shut up. He makes a threatening face and explains to him that he was unable to increase his level after taking numerous pills. Does he really think that he will become a warrior after eating a bowl of porridge? This rice has the mystical ability to break the barriers of magicians, thereby increasing their power. He invites Chang-kun to carry out one evil plan, just like in the good old days. He begins to tell the whole street that our hero is a rather strange merchant who sells stolen rice, and he was also kicked out of the princess's palace. All this is quite strange. Sunin realized that he was just trying to smear his name, but did not understand the reason why he wants to do this. He also remembers that guy in a black hat who used to help Master Zhao, but now he is not in the city. The guy from the Bai family makes a theory that they insulted the old hermit and then stole all his rice and got rid of the body. The crowd immediately changed their minds and decided that these guys were selling stolen goods, and the guy in the black hat is now considered a traitor who took advantage of his position in society. The guy in blue clothes told everyone that if they could catch these freaks, a very generous reward would await them. The guy in the black hat couldn't believe that the kid was using such methods to get what he had, but now he only has to think about protecting our main character. He just grabs the guy and throws him as far as possible, while he remains to fight against the crowd, a real hero. There was no way to expect a soft landing for our guy, but he still heard these freaks discussing a plan to steal rice right under his nose. Damn, this guy's face just nearly turned to mincemeat after running across the roof of a house. Suddenly, he heard that Chang-kun was again using his ability, the fist destroying mountains, and this time the technique flew straight to our friend. He lost his hat in this battle. Suddenly, the princess tells Tang Xiao to call the army on her behalf because it was simply impossible to contain such chaos on the streets of the city. Suddenly, a whole army with spears actually appears in front of them, and the battle stops. No one would want to fight armed soldiers with their bare hands. From his own weakness, our hero practically begins to cry. Because he is still at the first level and cannot help his friends in any way, he needs to raise his level of pumping as soon as possible. The action moves to the Royal Mountain, where our hero brought the guy in the black hat so that he could rest a little. He got a lot of trouble when he fought against Chang-kun, and all this happened through the fault of Sunan. The guy in the hat says that he is level 10, and Chang-kun will not be able to cause serious damage to him with just his fist, but his condition has deteriorated sharply, and our hero said that she will ask the master for some tablets that restore magical energy. They just wanted to be glad that they were almost there, but suddenly a strong explosion occurred in the distance, exactly where our hero's house is located. Arriving at the scene of the explosion, they wanted to find out what the hell was going on here. But suddenly they saw that old Master Zhao was lying on the floor near a tree and could not get up. Apparently the training with Xiaoa was successful. It seems that the guy in the black hat suddenly forgot about all his wounds and went to help the old man. Even our hero was shocked by what he saw. He carried him all the way in his arms, and this idiot turns out to have been pretending all the time. Sunan calls him the real king of deception. He asks the master to be careful, but our hero still cannot believe that he was so easily deceived. He decides to ask Xiao what happened here, but she says that Master Zhao wanted to show her one thing and then this happened. He hit the tree with his fist, but it still remained in place. And then apparently Zeus decided to get angry at his grandfather for hitting his favorite tree and striking it with lightning straight from heaven. Master Zhao tries to find an excuse for himself and says that he has a little cold, but our hero understands perfectly well that this old man cannot get sick. In fact, this is a system setting. They cannot destroy anything on the mountain without his consent. He hands the girl today's pills that improve her body and magical abilities, and he decides to leave to change clothes after a hard workout. Hearing behind his back that the girl was giving him her pills, the old man was simply shocked because at this rate he would simply go broke on this student. Sunan is not satisfied that the tablet is not crunchy enough and thinks about its properties, and the guy in the black hat calls it priceless because it can remove any toxins from the body and also strengthen your body.
The old man was offended by the fact that our hero doubted his ability to prepare medicine, and while they tried to calm him down, our hero said that he did not doubt him. It was just that the pill had a very strange taste.
He says that he will check the effects of these pills on Mao Mao, and everyone was simply shocked that our hero turned out to be such a bad guy that he experiments on his own dog. The guy in the black hat was shocked that the boy was using valuable pills as dog food, and the master simply turned around and left, calling Sunan a wasteful person. But he asks the master to wait a little because he wants to ask him for something. He wants to become old Master Zhao's assistant again like in the good old days. But the old man tells him that he is not the owner of this royal mountain, and if he suddenly wants to join their team so badly, then he should ask our main character about it. He was greatly surprised by his words that there was someone more respected on this mountain than Master Zhao. But who could it be? Meanwhile, our hero decided to pretend to be a big shot on this mountain, and with a huge amount of pathos asked the guy in the hat various questions, as if he were undergoing an interview. And he absolutely couldn't understand what the hell was going on here, but he was already beginning to regret that he had pretended to be wounded when they were walking up the mountain. After hearing this guy's world turned 360 degrees, he simply could not believe that Sunan was the owner of this mountain. After all, he was only the first level of cultivation. But now, after he began to see our hero, his face immediately changed as if he were seeing Master Zhao or a very beautiful girl. From such a crazy look, the faces of both changed and they were horrified by the way the guy in the hat was looking at them. He decided to swear allegiance so that our main character would accept him into the Royal Mountain team, but Sunan didn't like the fact that this guy was acting like a little child. The boy decides to think a lot first. The guy in the black hat saved his life several times, but he can't just trust a person because at any moment he can expect betrayal. He suddenly remembers that he has such an amazing thing as a system, and he wants to find out all the information about this guy from it. The system showed him all the data, from height to his abilities, but the guy still did not understand the reason for such strong distrust. Sunan makes a very crazy face and says that in order to get into the detachment of their mountain, he must do a couple of tasks. Of course, he felt uneasy from such a look, but he promised that he would carry out any of his instructions. If this dude shows himself well in the team within a month, then he will gladly accept him into the team. He promised that he will give his all. Sunan brought him to the field and said that his first task would be to completely plow this place. He simply cannot believe that he will do such a dirty job because he is at the 10th level of cultivation and was an assistant to Master Zhao himself. While the main character was trying to show how it should be done, the guy thought that he would definitely do it in order to join the Royal Mountain Squad. Sunan swings with all his might and breaks the ground with his hoe. He casts a spell and activates the plowing skill to maximum. The blow was so strong that a lightning bolt appeared from it. The dude was simply in shock after seeing the scale of destruction after just one blow and could not believe the strength of our protagonist. Although this skill is quite simple, our boy asks the dude to carefully pay attention to his legs and waist. The force he applies must remain unchanged. He simply could not believe that Sunan was using his kung fu to cultivate the land, but our hero says that now it is his turn. He must plow this field before the end of today. Sunan sat comfortably not far from the field and watched as this guy suffered from his own powerlessness. It's interesting that after plowing the land, he feels much stronger and asks the system if he has raised his level. Our hero's conditioning has been increased, so he feels much stronger than an ordinary first-level cultivator. Once he reaches a certain limit, he will be able to ignore the limitations of his strength, and this interested Sunan. He's going to level up as quickly as possible, but he still continues to bully that guy because he's doing everything wrong. Sunan apologizes to Han Peng for not having a free room and therefore invites him to sleep on the street today. He simply cannot believe that he, a person who has reached the 10th level of cultivation, will sleep on the porch. He does this all in order to get pills. But even Mao Mao's dog sleeps inside the house. The next morning, Han Peng sat with everyone at the table and asked for more, but our main character disappointed him because they have their own rules, 1 plate of rice for every meal. He cursed the moment when he wanted to join his squad, but still he was no longer so hungry, so he silently left the table. While Sunan was helping the little girl finish her porridge, a familiar female voice called him from behind. These were those two from the Bai family, and our hero could not understand how they were able to find the Royal Mountain. The little boy was suspiciously cheerful and decided to ask the reason why the boy had not appeared at the market in the city for so long. Everyone was too tense about such a sudden visit from old enemies, and Xiaoa asked Sunan if this could be his friend. Our hero makes a very serious expression on his face and wants to know how he found out about the location of the Royal Mountain because he never told him about it. But he just starts laughing and says that he overheard a conversation between him and Han Peng, and his sister, as always, was very ashamed of her stupid brother. Sunan immediately began to look at the guy with dissatisfaction, but he tried to justify himself and said that our hero was mistaken and Han Peng was not to blame for anything. Little sister apologizes for such an unexpected visit, but she was the one who asked her brother to bring her to this mountain. She just wants to enter into a business agreement with our guy and sell magic rice on behalf of the Bai family. It will be beneficial for everyone. Sunan immediately thought about his own benefit, but still decided not to trust the lady right away. After that incident at the market, it is not very convenient for our hero to go down from the mountain to the city, and therefore she offers him her help in this matter, and her younger brother got bored in the background and waited for something interesting to start. She said that the Bai family's rice company is the largest and is much higher than the others. Sunan still had nothing to answer her, and Han Peng decided to play the role of a maid and go wash the dishes after breakfast. Our hero asks the lady to sit down. Unfortunately, he has nothing to offer her from treats. The girl didn't care about it, but her younger brother called Sunan a real rude person because he didn't even bring tea for them. The boy immediately wants to ask her how much she knows about the magic rice that is produced on the Royal Mountain. She realized that the negotiations today would not be easy because the boy immediately began asking tricky questions. She simply talked about the fact that this rice is filled with magical chi energy and its price is simply cosmic. The girl turns out to be a more experienced businessman and says that with the help of this magic rice, students are able to overcome their limit barriers, so the price for this rice can be safely increased from 2 gold coins to 10. Our hero was simply shocked because he hadn't thought of this on his own, so they would set a price of 5 gold coins for 500 grams of rice, And her brother, meanwhile, stood aside and thought that he was bored and was just waiting until things started to happen something interesting. Suddenly, he notices Xiaoa, who is sitting on the grass and trying to teach Mao Mao new commands. In the end, he still decides to call this girl by name. It seems that now the young master will talk to a real girl for the first time. Despite the fact that he is very shy, he still has enough strength to say that his name is Bai Xiaolong, and he is from the rich Bai family. In response, she also gives her name and says that she came from the royal mountain, but it seems that the boy was more interested in the dog than the girl. Xiao says that this dog also belongs to the royal mountain, and he can call him Mao Mao. It seems that the young master has his own plan on how to communicate with girls and has just taken the first step, taking into account her interests. He says that he has many similar dogs at home. They are simply amazing guards, but the dog is not very happy to see him. At one point, Mao Mao simply bites this guy's hand, causing him to jump and fall right on top of the little girl. The young master had just touched a woman's hand for the first time and could not understand what was so soft and pleasant that he was touching, and the dog was watching it all from the side. At first, it may seem that there is a spark between these two, but this is only at first glance. Xiao says that this kid is a real freak and orders Mao Mao to attack him. From all this, the boy jumps up and starts running away in fear. His face was filled with horror and he couldn't understand what bad he had done. He just wanted to ask if Xiao was okay. Meanwhile, the negotiations ended successfully, and our hero received an amethyst card that he could cash in at any bank in the country. Now, according to the agreement, he would have to give 25 kilograms of rice, but he asked someone to come to the mountain to pick it up. Such a pleasant agreement is interrupted by the loud cry of a small boy who is being chased by a dog, but they did not even pay attention to him. He had already begun to beg for someone to save him from this damn dog, but the guys just looked at him and felt a feeling of Spanish shame. The main character wants to find out from the girl what happened and why Mao Mao runs after the boy and bites him, but the girl couldn't say anything and just stood there silently. The little sister was simply shocked that her brother was such a dumbass, and she was ashamed that he had become a black spot in her family. But the main character understood that Mao Mao had already eaten, and the matter was completely different. He gives the command for Mao Mao to stop biting this kid because he is just a child, and his sister apologizes for the fact that her brother is behaving incorrectly. Suddenly, a notification comes from the system that after receiving the amethyst card, our hero has more than 1 million in his account, and now the Wheel of Fortune room has become available to him. Our hero's attention abruptly switches to a new function in the system, and he tries to say goodbye to the girl as soon as possible in order to begin studying. The system invites him to enter the luck room, and of course, he doesn't even think and presses the confirmation button. Suddenly, our hero finds himself in a strange room in which there was a slot machine and a huge wheel with different inscriptions. Previously, this wheel was available to him only at the beginning of each month, but now he can spin it almost endlessly. It sounds very tempting, and today our hero will gain a new skill. The machine demands from him 10,000 coins per attempt, which means that he has about 100 attempts to win, so let's indulge in crazy excitement. A fire lights up in his eyes and he prays to Lady Luck for him to finally be lucky. Instead of a cool item, he gets the skill of chopping wood. Apparently, luck is clearly not on his side today if he gets such nonsense. He held the card with the skill in his hand and tried to understand what the system wanted from him. Did it really want our main character to become a farmer? Sunan decides not to despair after one small failure and make a couple more attempts at this slot machine. This time he got a card that can build a first-level villa. This is much better because in the future he will need to expand his possessions. After this, the boy made several more attempts and the system no longer awarded him prizes. He spent all his money and now was left penniless, just like in films about losers who lose their last in card games. Now is not the time to despair because he needs to improve his housing, but how he will do this and explain everything to his friends, he needs to come up with a good reason. Meanwhile, the young gentleman had already descended to the foot of the mountain. Even with his enormous speed and 4th level of pumping, he could not escape from an ordinary dog. And why was it necessary to set him on him? Because he had done nothing wrong. Finally, he says that he hates the Royal Mountain and everything connected with it, and promises to definitely return. Someone wanted to call our hero, but he managed to fall asleep with a book on his face. Again, this lazy guy does nothing and just sleeps. Suning wanted to relax and unwind for one day, but the girl calls him lazy and says that today she went down the mountain with Master Zhao. He helped collect magical herbs for her. She remembers that our hero collected them before. Maybe he needs some of this. If it weren't for Xiao, the boy wouldn't even remember about this task, and so he pats her on the head and says, "Thank you for what she tried for him." Our hero touches each plant in turn, and is surprised that among ordinary ones he finds seeds of even the 3rd level of pumping. It's simply incredible that Master Zhao has become so generous. While he was analyzing all the plants, he was able to pump up several levels at once, after which he remembers about the master, and a simply brilliant idea is born in his head. He loudly calls Han Pen and Master Zhao to him and wants to make an announcement that his master is right here. But the girl does not understand at all who our main character is talking about. Han Pen simply cannot believe his words, because our hero is already a powerful person, and he is afraid to imagine how strong his teacher will be. But Sunan says that his master wants to give them a house with enough space for everyone. He is just trying to remember all the strange things that happened on this mountain. First the mysterious rice, then the strange waters that give strength, and now the master of our main character himself has come here. He understands that the Royal Mountain is a difficult place. Master Zhao is distrustful of our guy's master and asks if he built the Royal Mountain. At first he considers his words nonsense, but he thinks that our hero's teacher is some kind of deity who can build mountains. But he immediately discards this thought because a deity cannot have such a weak student. The main thing is that the old man likes it on this mountain, and his other questions are not should worry. Sunan shouts that the old man will have his own room with a bathroom and a swimming pool, but in his thoughts he understands that he will need the money from the amethyst card, just enough to cover all expenses. He forced Han Pen to pull out all the things from the old house, and after a while he gives him a countdown that all the things were pulled out of the hut. Master Zhao cannot feel the presence of our hero's teacher, but he tries to explain that he came to him in a dream and taught him a couple of techniques. Zhao thought that this was some kind of nonsense, and this simply could not happen. He considers this nonsense because it is simply impossible to learn new techniques in a dream, and Han Pen doesn't know if our hero can be trusted. Why did he lure Master Zhao here? Sunan says that he understands their mistrust towards him, but now he will show that he is telling the truth. His master believes that the hut has become too small for them, and therefore now there will be a small update, after which he will activate the mansion card. Before building something new, he has to remove the old hut. The system copes with this perfectly, just like in the Sims 4 game. The faces of these guys immediately changed after they saw what our main character is capable of. Removing objects without touching is like having the power of a god who can create something out of nothing. Judging by the grandfather's face, he was clearly in shock and wanted to ask the main character what the hell was going on here. But he simply made the excuse that it was not he who was doing this, but his teacher. The boy thinks a little that this skill was used without the slightest use of chi or anything else, and he wondered what would happen if he used this skill on a person. The guys still didn't understand what kind of spatial techniques our hero was doing, but everyone was amazed at what was happening right before their eyes. He uses a card that must build a villa out of thin air, and starts the process of creating the building. In front of his face, the area where the construction will be done is highlighted and various materials simply fall from the sky like pieces of Lego. Master Zhao simply could not believe his eyes because our hero had just done exactly what he promised. Namely, he built an entire house out of thin air. Now Zhao is 100% sure that the teacher of our hero is a certain deity. There simply cannot be any other explanation. He simply waved his hand and a huge villa appeared in front of their faces. There is no longer any doubt. Sunan is being trained by a deity. Seeing such a miracle happen before his eyes, the old man decided for himself that he would never again regret living this life. He bows and tells his teacher that they will definitely see each other again. But in fact, he was talking to the system, but it still won't pay him even a rusty coin for this. In general, quite honestly, the main thing is that his friends believe him. Out of fear of such a powerful creature, others also decided to fall to the ground to worship him. Otherwise, they would suddenly become angry with them, and they definitely did not need the anger of the gods. Xiaoa couldn't understand what the hell was going on here, and decided to ask the master why they were behaving so strangely. But Zhao tells her that she is also a follower of this royal mountain, so she should also bow to her elder deity. She and Mao Mao also bowed, and the girl said that they would definitely meet him next time. Our hero looked at his friends with a smile and thought that they would ask more questions, and he also said thank you to the royal mountain, and hopes that it will help him in the future. Now there is no time to fan the snot here, and therefore our hero invites everyone to come into the house, and everyone begins to choose their own personal room. The next day came and suddenly someone started shouting the name of our hero and asking for help. Half an hour before these terrible screams, we are shown how a small boy from the Bai family bought our Xiaoa blush in a cosmetic shop as an apology. Girls love such things. He also bought a gold hairpin from Gucci, but he doesn't think she can use it because she has small braids. In any case, he hopes that she will not be angry with him this time, but suddenly someone's leg comes out from behind a tree. In the end, the boy simply grabs the box with gifts and asks what the hell is going on here, who dared to stand in his way. These turn out to be the same freaks who annoyed our main character at the market in the city. They were wondering what the young gentleman was doing in such a place all alone. Seeing his old enemies and a person from his family, he could not understand what they wanted from him. Were they really going to rob him? But the guy from the Wang family asks him not to make such jokes. They are not at all interested in his little box. Chan-kun says that there is no need to stand on ceremony with this little freak. He is finally left alone, and now they can force him to point to the royal mountain. In his thoughts, he thought that Xiao was still on that mountain and he needed to warn them, and he told them to follow him and he would show them to the mountain. Did these idiots really think that he would agree so easily? He uses his flash speed and quickly runs away from them. Chan-kun started to get nervous because the guy ran into the forest, and now they won't be able to catch him. But the second guy tells him that everything is going exactly as he planned. While the boy was distracted, he did something with his box. He knows that the guy's beloved lives on the royal mountain, and so he decided to arrange a little surprise for her. He initially thought it was strange that he bought so many things from women's stores, and he also heard that last time he was bitten by a dog from that mountain, he just had a pack of wild dogs to have fun with him. The action moves to the mountain. While the boy was running, he swore that he would never give all the rice to this damned family. Even at the cost of his own life, he would protect it. While Han Pen was plowing the field, he heard strange cries for help with his name and turned around to look. But he just saw how Chan-kun caught up with the small kid and hit him in the back like a real rat. All his things scattered and blood started coming out of his mouth. Han Pen immediately hurried to help him, but the boy must tell him as soon as possible that these freaks want to harm the royal mountain. He himself is also a little scared, but still asks what this idiot needs. In his thoughts, he understands that they were following the kid because he usually takes the magic rice from the royal mountain. But Chan-kun asks him to wait a little for this guy because he only ran a huge distance while climbing this mountain. He praised the little guy for running so fast, but still said that first he needed to rest and asked for some water. But suddenly his fatigue gives way to hysterical laughter because he finally noticed the clothes Han Pen was wearing. He decided to laugh at him because, being a former director, he decided to go to the mountains to become a simple collective farmer. What a shame. And the little kid still had back pain. But Han Pen proudly declares that what he is doing now should not concern him. These idiots came here without an invitation, and if they want to do something, they will pay for it with their lives. But Chan-kun only laughed
Even more at these words. They had not seen each other for only a couple of days. Did he really think that he had managed to become stronger than him?
Apparently they don't understand in words. Chan-kun says that since the last meeting his wounds have healed and he needs to leave new ones, and the crowd behind him was discussing the fact that the guy is a real suicide since he argues with the martial arts master. After he was promoted, he managed to learn a lot of new techniques and now it's time to try them out on his punching bag. Meanwhile, our hero was doing his usual morning routine. He bought a heater and air conditioner and was able to sleep normally. Why the hell did someone decide to start yelling under it at such an early hour? Seeing that enemies appeared on his mountain, the main character became nervous because Chan-kun was already flying towards his friend with his new technique. It seems that he does not shine with much imagination, and therefore gave the name for this attack, the double blow of the mountain destroyer. Sunan can't believe that he is using this technique again, and has also strengthened it, but Han Pen has been eating a lot of magic rice lately, and he hopes that he can cope with this freak. But the guy was simply shocked that he would have to fight with a trained warrior. Last time he could not withstand even one such blow, and this time it would be double. He completely stopped believing in his own strength and accepted defeat. He didn't know what to do now, but his body understood perfectly well that the soul of a warrior lives in his body. And with the help of instincts, he understood the hoe he was plowing the ground and began to use it as a weapon. Using an ability called muscle memory, he remembers all his combat skills and, despite the fact that the enemy is already flying towards him with a powerful attack, he is not going to retreat. Since he cannot defeat his enemy because he is stronger than him, he will try to do it with the help of cunning. And with the help of a hoe, he finds a weak point in his enemy's defense. Chan-kun didn't even notice how his leg was picked up and his balance was disrupted. Thus, farming skills helped our boy defeat a very strong enemy, which means strength is not important. What matters is how you use your skills. The enemy team was simply shocked when they saw their teammate flying around on a hoe like a witch on a broomstick. What the hell is going on here? And our hero looked proudly at his comrade and thought that lately he had really become much stronger than ever. Apparently that work on the farm had done him good. After the guy finally landed, he was simply shocked by his defeat. Of course he understood that he could lose, but it was simply humiliating to lose to a guy with a tool for plowing the earth. The young master was simply shocked by Han Pen's such strength and considered him incredible. But he himself looked at his own hands and realized that he was finally able to surpass his own limits. He calls his opponent a real weakling because he was able to defeat him in one blow, just an incredible feeling. He felt the fire in his own body and decided to ask which of these freaks who came to them on the mountain would become his next victim. While the guy behind him was praising the incredible strength of this guy, he was only bragging to his enemies. Now he thought that he was capable of defeating anyone. They wanted to help Chan-kun get up, but he was in such shock that he refused. He could never even think that some guy with a hoe could defeat him. Han Pen decided to tell him goodbye so that he would not return to this mountain again and not create unnecessary problems. He had nothing to say in response. While insults continued to be directed at him, he could no longer endure it and picked up a stone that was lying not far from him. Han Pen wanted to describe in detail his terrible fighting skills, but suddenly a stone flies into his forehead with the words to shut up and not show off. Our hero watched the battle all this time and understood that his comrade was simply lucky to turn on his reflexes in time. But now things have become bad and something needs to be done. He spent too much strength and spiritual energy in training and therefore became an excellent warrior. And Han Pen is an ordinary beginner who was simply lucky to outwit him, even if he does not expect that he will be able to defeat him in a fair battle. But these words only angered our warrior, and he said that it was his opponent who was fighting dishonestly because it was he who threw stones like the last rat. Let him go to a fair fight face to face, and then they would decide which of them is stronger. Last time he was careless, and now he will be more careful. First he needs to recover, and so he orders his assistant to give him something. In order to prevent these vases from breaking on the road, his roomers packed everything in thick blankets and sent them here. The young master was scared that these jars might contain deadly copper. Han Pen was also scared, although he had never seen what this thing was capable of. But instead of copper, there is a porridge-like liquid in the vase, and it seems that Chang-kun is going to drink it before starting his second battle. Our hero understands that now his comrades are in great danger, and he needs to intervene as soon as possible to change the course of the battle. Finally, everything was ready, and a plate of hot porridge was brought for Chang-kun. She will help him regain his strength and heal his wounds before entering a new battle, but our warrior seems to fall unconscious. Our main character is also not very smart, and lands right in the bushes under his huge house. Damn cherry juice still won't stop flowing from this guy's nose. It was the most vile attack possible, and the young master thought that being around this guy, his IQ was starting to decrease. The enemy has already regained his strength with the help of porridge, and with a smile from Hanma Yujiro, he is about to begin the second round. At that very second, he finds himself in front of our guy and uses his clan's secret technique, which should finish him off. After a technique called explosive palm, Han Pen's hoe breaks into two pieces and a huge cut appears on his body, like a blow from a magical battle. Our hero finally got out of the clutches of the terrible bushes and simply shouted that these bastards should not touch his friend. He prevents the enemy from making another attack and makes a powerful kick that throws the guy back to his assistants. This guy's condition was clearly not the best, but he was at least glad that his bones and internal organs were intact. When Sunin attacked this guy, he couldn't break through his defense. He can't figure out whether he broke his leg or just bruised. But one thing is for sure, with his current skills, he won't be able to defeat this guy. But it seems that our main character is a real idiot because he starts making fun of Chang-kun and says that he will kneel in front of him again. He looked at our hero with apprehension. He does not feel a lot of chi energy in his leg, but that attack was quite powerful. He asks his assistants to help him if the situation gets out of control. Suddenly, a whole army attacks our boy, and he thinks that this is a very terrible and vile trick. But even so, it is still a bunch of weak warriors that he can cope with. Seeing all this, Xiaoa said that she needed to immediately help her brother and his friend, and the master just stood there and thought about how not to get involved in this mess.
The master tried to calm her down, because Sunin is the leader of their mountain and his strength must be reckoned with. But in his thoughts, he already understood that the main character had a broken leg and would not be able to move normally.
Meanwhile, our hero used his seating skills on these idiots, of course. It works great on ordinary warriors, but on a martial master named Chang-kun, it may not work. You need to come up with a plan to deal with him. And the enemy team was simply shocked that our boy was fighting his army so easily. It's good that the guy with long black hair didn't immediately climb into the drag, or he would have been lying face down in the ground again. In his thoughts, the old man understood that Sunin did not have the strength to defeat the enemy, but he told the girl that over time, the strength of our hero would disappear, and it was at that moment that the old man would intervene in the battle. Our hero tried to remain completely calm and asked Han Pen if he could continue to fight, but inside he was experiencing incredible pain that did not allow him to even move. In this case, the guy from the Bai family suggests setting the dogs on them because Han Pen doesn't have the strength to fight now, and the little guy can only run away. Then they can test what our hero is capable of now. He ordered his guys to prepare dogs. Each of them was mixed with a wolf, so they are very wild. It's good that his partner reminded him of such a nice idea. The little guy began to throw threats because he could easily escape from the dogs, but our hero simply cursed him for these words. Han Pen only recently weakened his wounds, and Sunin cannot move normally, and therefore his escape can be considered in vain. The dogs were clearly in the mood to eat a couple of tasty people, and Chang Kun allowed himself to ask the question, is our protagonist afraid that death is so close to him? The old master's face was full of madness. He wanted our hero to beg him for help, and then the old man would show all his power and the girl could not understand such strange behavior. Suddenly they began to notice the strange behavior of the dogs because they were terribly scared. They were literally shaking with fear and had their tails between their legs. At one point, the dogs could not stand the tension and simply broke away, dragging all the warriors along with them. They were so strong that the guys could not hold them. One of the enemy warriors even managed to hit his head on a stone along the way. Everyone watched this spectacle and felt Spanish shame for being on the same team. Master Zhao condemned them for being too weak, and Xiao Xiao said that these dogs showed off too much and that Mao Mao was much more evil and dangerous than them. Confidence has returned to our main character. He completely forgot that Mao Mao has enormous strength, and now he can again threaten his enemies without thinking that dogs will bite him. Chang Kun thinks that there is some kind of frightening force living on the royal mountain that scared the dogs away. He needs to calm them down quickly and not engage in hand-to-hand combat. He simply underestimated his opponent, but still expresses respect to the master. In such cases, he is going to become more serious and asks his subordinates to bring him a cane for battle. This reed is hexagonal copper oxide, and one of the best craftsmen made it within 49 days, and copper essence was also extracted from it. Sunin realized that the matter smelled of frying because this guy began to use weapons. He should not be allowed close because his leg was still damaged, and farming skills would not work against such a strong warrior. But Chang Kun is not going to just stand and wait, so he immediately attacks and asks our heroes to give it their all and show him what they are worth. After which he uses the Mountain Destroyer technique with the help of his staff. Realizing that he was already too close, our hero knew that he could not defeat him with his bare hands, so he decides to use one of the items that the system gave him, but he needs to be summoned as quietly as possible. The little kid was simply in shock because the hero managed to get this weapon out of thin air, but now Sunin looks more dangerous because he now has in his hands the most dangerous weapon of the Royal Mountain, the firewood machete. This weapon is not particularly long and is made of ordinary material, but after their weapons collided, he was able to block the blow. If this machete is used to cut brushwood on the Royal Mountain, then there is no material that it cannot cut, so this guy's cane begins to split into two parts. Chang Kun was beside himself when he saw that his weapon cut everything like a knife through butter. He was fired up with the idea of getting this treasure for himself at any cost. Our hero's eyes began to glow with fire, and with the face of Yujiro Hanma, he asked if this guy wanted to continue the battle with him. But after the machete practically divided this guy's face, he admitted defeat and asked to remove the weapon away from him. In his thoughts, he could not understand who this guy was, and why such a strong warrior was simply expelled from the royal palace. The dude from the Bai family realized that they didn't know about the main character's abilities, and decided that now it was time for negotiations. Why don't they just shake hands and go about their business? Sunin no longer wants to stand on ceremony with these freaks, and therefore tells them to get out of his mountain and never come back. Chang Kun simply ran away like a real coward, and the guy from the Bai family was glad that they were able to come to an agreement, after which all the warriors began to retreat. They started arguing and blaming each other for the failure, but Chang Kun said that otherwise his face could have been cut in half. Our hero understood that his strength was running out, but he still managed to deceive these idiots, and Han Pen only thought that the Royal Mountain was able to give him confidence. Now he is proud of himself, even though there was blood all over his face. Finally, Sunin tells his enemies that if they are done measuring their strength, then they better leave this place. The Royal Mountain is private property and does not accept visitors. And in his thoughts, he begged for these guys to just leave and not create unnecessary problems. But suddenly the guy from the Bai family says that the purpose of their visit is an agreement on the sale of rice. Today, representatives of the four great families should gather here, and there will be a discussion about sales. Considering that they injured his comrades, he is not going to just sign the contract. He is already selling rice to the Bai clan, and so they should just leave. Or they think that the machete in his hand is not sharp enough, but in his thoughts, he wanted them to leave because his leg hurts. But suddenly this dude begins to threaten. He of course agrees that the rights to trade belong to the Bai clan, but it would be very offensive if the funds for production were accidentally damaged. In short, the guy threatens to ruin his business if he does not sign the contract. Sunin was a little shocked that this smiling idiot dared to threaten him. At one point, he could no longer stand it because the pain in his leg had become simply unbearable. Our hero decides to take part in this game. If he plays the play to the end, so he orders his friends to bring a table for tea and also medicine because his leg is about to fall off. The little guy didn't want to do anything, but if the owner of the mountain ordered it, then it must be carried out. He was surprised that they built such a huge house because a couple of days ago it didn't exist yet. But Han Pen said that this was their little secret. After all the preparations were completed, they sat down at the negotiating table. Our hero already has one partner, so he can only give them 30% of the rice, but they considered that this was too little to conduct a sales business. This water really has the ability to heal, because his leg almost doesn't hurt anymore. Now he can calmly argue with these guys without thinking about the fact that he's injured, and Master Mao is also planning to do something. This guy thinks that there are 4 great houses that trade in rice, and it will be very difficult to divide this 30% between them. In his thoughts, in fact, he thought that they would not have any profit from this, and he didn't care about the other houses. Our hero feels as calm as possible and mockingly asks this guy to explain to him what doesn't suit him about 30%. The Wu clan cannot figure this out because they have never been involved in selling rice. These words made both guys' jaws drop in surprise. With these words, our hero insulted the honor of the Wu clan, and Chang Kun tells him not to offend other people, because not only does he throw insults, but he also spoils the reputation of the entire clan. Our hero takes out his weapon and says that it would be better for them to speak to him with great respect. He doesn't care about the honor of the clan, because it depends only on themselves, and he is responsible only for the piece of land on which he lives and works. Chan Kang is angry that our hero relies only on his weapon, but while it is with him, he cannot even argue with it, let alone fight. The words that our hero said hurt the honor of the clan in which Chang Kun is located, but unfortunately he is one of the lower representatives. In this clan, there are colonels and generals who are much stronger than him. Sunan's friends were frightened by the words of his opponent, but only our main character was completely confident in himself. Do they really think that he will be afraid of those people who stand behind them? But suddenly this guy says that today Master Zhao will be able to eat rice in as much quantity as he wants. Our hero decided to use a trick and take advantage of his grandfather's love for rice. Apparently the grandfather had already lost his mind when he heard that he would have access to an unlimited amount of rice. Suddenly, a strong aura begins to spread throughout the entire mountain and destroy objects in its path. The enemies were shocked by such strong energy and realized that there was a very high-ranking person in that house. Chan Kun was scared and hid behind his friend. Our hero decided to intimidate them and said that they had never seen a person with such a level of strength. Now they definitely won't be able to set their own conditions. The old man is angry that they dared to mention the name of the old master in such a way. He calls them a bunch of scum whose horizons are not very developed. Xiao says that Brother Suning told her that you can't scold people for their outlook because the master also didn't know how to use the toilet until he lived in the same house with them. Old man Zhao wanted to kill the girl for these words. But then he remembered that she was his student. Realizing that they will no longer be able to threaten our hero, they bow to him. They definitely cannot cope with such a strong patron as Sunan, so they agree 30%. Let our hero do what he must, and they will simply leave his mountain. They simply get up and leave the mountain, but Han Pen cannot understand why Sunan agreed to negotiate with them, because he could calmly deal with them. If Han Pen had been in his place, he would not have given them even a grain of rice. Finally, the guy from the Bai clan turns around and asks our hero, maybe he has something else to add after the negotiations. Sunan begins to think like a real genius, playboy, billionaire, philanthropist Tony Stark, and decides to make another interesting offer for them. Let them come to him tomorrow afternoon, and then they can become the first partners who will sell apples from the Royal Mountain. This guy immediately thinks that these apples are somehow unusual, and says that he will inform the traders to gather near the Royal Mountain tomorrow. But our hero says that the Bai clan was his first partner, and therefore he tells the merchants not to start rumors about them. The little kid was amazed that our hero is so fair. The dude says that harmony can bring money, and all those who have it should stick together. He thinks that our main character is an extremely interesting person, and they will still establish partnerships with him. Finally, these freaks are gone, and the boy is thinking about putting up a gate, because anyone can come to them. Although he is an ordinary traveler, he is also a big klutz, so he won't be able to kill anyone. Suning thinks that they urgently need a warrior whom they can send into battle. Otherwise, at this rate, Master Zhao will look down on him. Perhaps he will begin to strengthen himself with the help of agriculture. He turns to Han Pen and says that he did a great job today. Let him continue in the same spirit because from now on, he becomes an official disciple of the Royal Mountain. He simply bows to him and says that he will definitely do everything so that the Royal Mountain continues to develop, even if he needs to die for this. but in his thoughts he rejoiced like a child because he had already shed sweat and blood for the sake of this mountain. But suddenly he experiences severe chest pain and starts spitting cherry juice. The little boy began to worry about him, but he asked not to exaggerate because he was simply worried when he was accepted into the royal mountain.
Our hero is surprised that with such a deep wound, this guy manages to endure the pain, and therefore asks the system to order a special bottle that will heal him. Han Pen has suffered enough today.
The system notified him that the package had arrived, but when the hero took out the bottle, the little guy was simply shocked because Sunan was again summoning items from the 5th point. Our hero hands him a bottle of water and says that it will heal his wounds, but Han Pen cannot believe it because the water he usually drinks only helps to replenish his strength a little. The little boy from the Bai family didn't know what to do. Should he tell Han Pen that our hero took out this bottle from that very place? First there was a machete, now there's a bottle. Is this place really like a bottomless pit? The packaging said 2, which means this is a 2nd level source, but the packaging was still as rough, and Han Pen was looking forward to being healed. Suddenly his wound began to heal, although a slight itch appeared, but it's okay, this water is simply amazing and deserves to be called a 2nd level healing bottle. From such a terrible picture, all the food he ate came out of the guy's stomach. Han Pen still had some water left. That guy was in a lot of trouble and his organs were probably damaged. Maybe help this guy. The boy said that he would never touch this bottle even if he were dying, and therefore our hero offers him an alternative. Han Pen might consider it a bonus for him joining his King Mountain team, but judging by his face, he doesn't like the idea. Sunan decided to make a real warrior out of this guy, and therefore he will need a pill that strengthens the body and increases physical capabilities. Han Ping immediately realized that this tablet was refined by Master Zhao, and therefore he proudly accepts his reward and swears that he will do everything for the well-being of the Royal Mountain. Our hero is a little embarrassed by this guy's behavior. He simply bombarded him with compliments and he's also too pushy. He asks Han Peng to get up from his knees and take a pill, and the system congratulates our hero because now he has 2 official disciples from the Royal Mountain. These words sent shivers down Sunin's body. As soon as he swallowed the pill, Han Pen's body changed and his strength increased, making him even more like Guts from the anime Berserk. The boy from the Bai clan couldn't believe the devilry that was happening here. An unlimited amount of magic rice, water that saves almost dead people, powerful weapons that are not even in the coolest academies. This is very cool even though Sunan got it all from the place itself. The boy also wanted to get such power, and therefore ran up to the main character to join the Royal Mountain. Having scanned him using the system, our hero realized that this guy's IQ is too low. In short, he's a fool, but cooperation with the Bai clan won't hurt him, so Sunan is still thinking about such a proposal. Our hero simply leaves and tells Han Pen to keep an eye on him. Now he's like his student. The little kid didn't understand what happened because there wasn't even any initiation ceremony, and the guy in black clothes called the boy a real lucky guy. The dude from the Bai clan couldn't believe that on the Royal Mountain, you had to earn respect through your actions and not through money. So Han Pen convinced him that he would farm the land to pay for his stay here. The action moves to our hero, who at night was thinking about how he could protect the Royal Mountain. It seems that last time he pulled out a lucky ticket, and now wants to use it. He enters the lottery system and thinks that last month he only had 1 chance to try his luck, but this time there will be 2, so he needs to try. He noticed that among all the cards there was exactly the one he needed, namely the Royal Gate. There were 36 cards in total, and the system gave him 3 attempts. He is completely sure that this time he will definitely be lucky. He simply pokes at a random card, and suddenly he gets exactly the one he needs. He simply cannot believe his own luck. Our hero thinks that luck is on his side today, and in such cases his crazy passion begins to awaken. He decides that it would be great to spin the wheel a couple more times to get even more useful items for his mountain. Of course, as soon as a person starts to get lucky, he wants to get as much as possible. Suddenly he gets some kind of iron stick. Well, this time he was unlucky, but it's okay because he has 1 more try. But the next time he gets 20 average level stones and he can't understand what to do with them. Was his luck really only enough for 1 game? His face immediately changed as if he had been crying for his ex-girlfriend for several nights into his pillow. Why does he need an iron stick and stones? What can he do with them? The guy regrets that he spent 2 whole attempts here and starts yelling at the Wheel of Fortune so that it comes out to talk to him one-on-one. He is going to get gold and not some small prizes in the form of unnecessary garbage. Each of his attempts cost 10,000 coins, and there were clearly many such attempts. The guy became a character out of crazy passion and could not stop. He told the system to come out with him one-on-one and deal with him like men. This situation looked like another Genshin Impact player decided to spend his money to get the desired character, but instead he got an unloved character again. Sunin could not believe that his money flew away so quickly. Suddenly, he gets a card called The Secret of the Royal Mountain, and he thinks that with the help of it, he can log out of the system and go to his home world. He brings the card to his forehead in order to study it, but the system says that the owner must first undergo training. What nonsense, because in real life, he will never have time to prepare. But the system makes a second warning and says that there is not enough air, and the host's body is too weak to activate this ability. From tension, he begins to choke and sweat profusely. In such cases, he decides to use his entire arsenal and wants to take the first-level tablets that will give him stamina, and the second-level tablets that will give him strength. He wanted to play a little with his destiny and survive to the maximum. Every day, Xiao kept pills for him, and Master Zhao improved them so that he should definitely have enough strength. But in my opinion, something is starting to go wrong. He thought about the fact that it would be much easier to drink the magic elixir, but he didn't even notice the strange black spots on his body. He thought that he had gone too far and that his body began to decompose and melt. The guy is very scared, but the system says that our hero is now undergoing a purification ritual. Everyone whose strength begins to increase sharply moves to the next stage of evolution, and soon Sunin will receive the title of a real warrior. He decides to make fun of the system and tells it to prepare some kind of surprise for him next time. But it doesn't understand the jokes and says that it will make our hero feel the pain several times stronger. He didn't quite mean that, but now he needs to think about something else. Someone smelled a strange smell that managed to spread throughout the house and asked our hero if everything was okay. It was bad because his friends shouldn't know what was happening here. He tells Xiao that he is doing hard training, and it is his sweat that stinks so much she better go to the first floor and check if the door is closed, while he figures out how to get rid of the smell. Our hero decides that the most correct decision would be to simply jump out the window onto the street and wash his body in the nearest lake. The girl urgently called Han Pen, and she is looking for him in the house. He cannot understand why she is looking for him at such a late hour, but she is worried that the smell of a dying person is spread throughout the apartment. Maybe he knows what the reason is. He himself was also shocked when he smelled this smell and thought that it was that guy from the Bai family who again couldn't cope with his business in the restroom. He needed to teach this puppy to go to the litter box. He quickly runs towards the restroom, shouting that the guy from the Bai family should not do what he is going to do and wants to teach him how to use the toilet correctly. But the guy had a completely different problem. He couldn't understand how to use the toilet correctly and took water with a bucket and flushed it into the toilet every time. It seems he's so stupid that he doesn't even notice the special button for this. He notices strange traces and understands that the boy has been here for too long. Apparently he ate something wrong for dinner. But it's better for him not to ask where Han Pen knows such details. Probably his situation is no better. Our hero ran away while listening to all these terrible screams and did not know what to do now. The team should not see him in this state, and there was still 1,500 meters left to the nearest lake. The system notified him that he had arrived at his destination, and as soon as he saw the water, he decided to imagine himself as a professional swimmer and jump into the lake with a bomb. It turns out that Sunin is a rather fit young man, but small remnants of that strange black liquid were still on his body. He also notices this, and all his clothes were covered in this strange thing, and the smell did not go away. What should he do now if even this method did not help him?